What's up, Sifters, and welcome to GameFace, episode 275 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. We're here to discuss the biggest games and topics from the past week, and alongside me to do that is Matthew. Kyle, what's up, Matt?
Not much.
How's life treating you?
All right.
Pretty good, actually. What's that you got sitting there next to you, Matt?
That's my new toy.
Wait till you guys see this.
This is the RoboSen Optimus Prime.
I am the leader of the Autobots.
So,
Oh, no!
I'm going to turn... What?
Oh, it didn't work.
No, because I got to tell him to.
Oh, right.
I got to set it up so he's got room.
Okay.
Hey, Optimus.
Greetings.
Transform.
Do some more of the other stuff it does.
Oh, hey, Optimus.
Greetings.
Megatron.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
Honestly, I think the coolest thing is transforming back into the truck,
Oh, yeah.
if you can do that.
Hey, Optimus.
Greetings.
Transform. You like to snap to attention.
I love how the heels snap together when he transforms back into the truck. That is so freaking cool, Matt. Where did you get that, and how much was it?
I ordered it from Hasbro's web store. It was $750, so
Woo!
1.5 PlayStation 5s. Hey, Optimus.
Greetings.
Victory.
Knowledge is the pathway to victory.
That is so sweet, dude. It worth every penny. If I could afford it, I would not.
It's pretty great.
If I could afford it, I would not regret buying it.
They are they're sold out right now,
Connection complete.
but there's more coming in the spring. If should you decide you want to do that to yourself financially, and then there's an app where you can do poses and stuff that you can download, like new ones.
Uh-huh.
So you can do the Iron Man landing.
Till all are one.
People are asking if it works with Alexa.
No,
No?
it's a separate thing.
And so it has its own
Has its
proprietary
own-
app?
Yeah, it has its own app. You download from the Google Play Store or the App Store,
Uh-huh.
and that's it.
Pretty freaking sweet.
He's posing. This pose is called Be Cool.
Be cool. So awesome. The sounds for it are pretty sweet too, man.
Yeah.
Yep. So there you go. You never know what you're going to get on GameFace because we got Matt on the show. And there's the heel click. That's awesome. So anyway, welcome to GameFace. This week's episode, a couple notes before we get going here. Next week's episode will not be on Tuesday. It will be on Wednesday. I am going out of town for a long... What's up, Optimus?
Had to disconnect him. Hey, Optimus.
Greetings.
Shut down.
Autobots never give up.
Sweet. So the show next week will not be on Tuesday. It'll be on Wednesday. Still at the same time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm headed out of town for a long weekend. And it's not so much that I wouldn't be back in time to do a show on Tuesday. It's that I would not have enough time to play games to do a show on Tuesday. I just got review code for Guardians of the Galaxy last night, so I just started on that. But that's embargoed until like next week. And actually, I think the show being delayed a day may work in our favor. Mm-hmm. So I need time to play games because once Friday comes, I'm out and I won't be back until like Sunday night or Monday morning. So remember that. GameFace next week on Wednesday, not Tuesday. Do not show up on Tuesday at 1 p.m. I may be able to even pop in the chat in case people do to let them know what's going on. Because I will be back by then. I just won't be ready to do a show. A couple other things before we get going. Let's see. Splinter Cell was confirmed this morning.
Oh, yeah?
Well,
I didn't
not
see that.
officially, but it was from a really reliable source. So a new Splinter Cell is coming. We've actually discussed that a couple times. I've thought about
for years.
Yeah, I thought about sliding it into the episode, but I was like, we just
nothing
talked
new
about
to
it
say.
like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It felt like so. It's not a part of the show, but I just wanted to share that with you before we got going. And then another note, there is a beta sign up right now for Elden Ring. Have you signed up for it?
Yep.
So did I. So if you're interested in Elden Ring and you want to give it an early go, it was also delayed by like a month, right? To like February or something.
Yeah, it was delayed to February 25th, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Making February the most packed month in a long time if everything holds its date.
Yeah. So Elden Ring, one, it was delayed a month, but two, there are signups for a beta right now. If you want to figure out where you can sign up, you just go to sifted.net and just search for Elden Ring, and it's probably one of the top 2 stories on the Elden Ring game page. And there's a sign up there. It literally takes like 2 seconds to sign up. They don't really ask for anything. They're like, what's your email address? Do you like all our other games? And that's pretty much it. And I did select like all of them plus the others because some of their older games weren't on there.
Yeah. I mean, I played Kingsfield. I know
exactly.
where you came from, boys.
Yeah. There's a couple other ones that weren't on there as well. So
A lot of Armored Cores are not on there.
Yeah, and I don't think Chrome Hounds was on there either.
No.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that's kind of the housekeeping before we get started. I saw some people in chat wondering what we're going to do on the show today because it has been a slow week in game releases, pretty much. One other thing before we get going, and some of you guys won't care about this because you haven't been affected by it, but we finally fixed the audio on GameFace. It has been months long that I've worked on this. I came in here this week and basically sat on the phone with the company for hours trying to figure out what was going on, and I think we figured it out. And some people were like, what are you talking about? The only way you could hear the audio problems is if you were listening to the video version with really good headphones. Otherwise, you couldn't hear it. I mean, I listen to the podcast version of the show every week, most every week, and you can't hear it at all. For some reason, when it gets sent through the process of turning into an MP3, the pops would disappear. But if you're watching the show on Sifted or on YouTube with cans on, like good cans, you could just hear this pop like happening in the background, like constantly. And it was sucked. And I've been working on it forever, and I finally got it figured out, I think. So if you're one of those people who listens to the show on YouTube or on Sifted with headphones and you've been hearing this audio distortion and these pops, let me know if they're gone. I think they're gone. We did like 3 test files, and they were all clean. So I'm really excited about that. I know you guys don't care, but I've been working on it for like months trying to figure it out. So I'm very excited about that. But anyway, back to what I was saying. If you were wondering, like, how are we going to do a show this week? We have plenty of topics. I think we have a good show today. I'm pretty excited about it. As you might expect, we're going to kick things off with Back 4 Blood. We talked about this game not that long ago, 6 weeks maybe, 5 weeks for its
whatever
beta.
the beta was. Yeah.
Yep. And it is, and now I believe this even more firmly than I did when we talked about it last time, it is absolutely a Left 4 Dead clone.
Oh, yeah.
In all the best and worst ways, I would argue. Matt, have you spent some more time with it?
I mean, I played like half the first act, enough to know that I never need to play it again. I already uninstalled it.
You were a big Left 4 Dead fan back in the day.
That's the problem. Is I played Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 probably like 400 or 500 hours total, and I don't ever want to do that again. Not that I'm afraid I'd be addicted to Back 4 Blood because I wouldn't. It's just like it's like if you really loved a particular food or particular thing and you did it over all the time. It's like, and I'm just to the point that it's like you ate something so much that you're nauseous just looking at it.
Oh.
You know, like you never want to eat that again.
It's like tequila.
Yeah.
It's
That's how
the first liquor I ever got sick on, and I've never been able to drink it since.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Left 4 Dead. That's how I feel about a few gagames that I've played too much. Phantasy Star Online has a similar effect. The menu music of Phantasy Star Online literally makes me a little
It
queasy.
triggers you.
Yeah. Like, I'm just like, nope, don't need to do that again. So yeah, I played like the first few 2 or 3 of the opening chapter, Act 1 stuff, and I got to the safe house on the 3rd one, I think, and just I'm done. Like that's it. Like I get it. Like I played it. It's a smoother playing Left 4 Dead. and I want nothing to do with it.
I think what that says,
and that is entirely me. That is not a criticism of the game.
Yeah.
I think they nailed what they're trying to do. It's just I can't play it.
Well, I think that also speaks to a big point that I have, which is they have really failed to innovate in any
Oh no, there's nothing new here
appreciable
at all.
way.
No.
I mean, the card system is supposed to be its big switch up, and I will say this is one
The
thing.
bots are smarter.
The bots are smarter
than
yeah.
Left 4 Dead. I mean, they're
Yeah.
not smart. They're not good. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to make it through the game with them. But they are not complete idiots like the Left 4 Dead ones were.
Now, the one thing I do feel like I came to appreciate more when I played the final version versus the beta version is the card system. Because when I was first playing the beta, I didn't quite understand it. I didn't quite get how they worked. And now that I've played a ton more of the game, I do understand how they work. And they do alter the game pretty significantly. Like some people, you'll start a game and you'll see changes in the game. Like there'll be fog, like really intense fog. And in this game, that makes a huge difference because it's all about kind of getting ahead of the horde to make sure you don't get overwhelmed and get kind of swarmed by them.
Yeah, I will say that there's one of the big differences between Left 4 Dead and this is that this has larger areas with a longer line of sight. Like you can see what you're walking into more often.
That's true. Yeah. Unless there's a fog card plate or whatever.
But there's a technical limitation on Left 4 Dead for that. But this does take advantage of the better hardware we have now, where it's like, oh, I can see where all these monsters are. I mean, they will still crawl out of nowhere and spawn out of nowhere.
They'll just jump over a fence out of nowhere. And
like there's suddenly giant ones running behind you in the apartment building hallway you already cleared and looked in every room of. But I guess he was just in a closet somewhere. I don't know.
You never feel safe in this game.
No.
Because you can clear out an area, and it doesn't matter. If you have your back against a wall, they'll just climb over the wall right behind you and start attacking you from behind. So you never do truly feel safe unless you're in the safe house in this, which I guess some people may like that. Some people may not like it. But the card system, as I started learning it, it does add a layer to the game. Mm-hmm. And a big part of it, too, is coordinating with your teammates so that – because the cards – a lot of the cards that you decide to play from your deck affects your teammates as well. And so if you actually are on the headset and you communicate with your team while you're picking your cards, you can make sure that you're kind of covering your bases or you're setting your cards up for how you want to play. The other thing I would say, too, is, and look, I haven't played a game that I used the voice chat for a long time. But after I played this for a couple hours, I realized I kind of needed to use the headset, and I did. And it does make a big difference. Not so much like in-game being like, hey, like come and revive me or whatever. It's before the game. So while you're setting up your cards, it's really helpful. When you're choosing your loadouts in safe houses or before the game starts, it's really helpful because you really do kind of want each of the four players to have kind of a different loadout as far as like what their guns are. You want one sniper. You want someone with a shotgun. You want someone with an SMG. You want someone with an assault rifle. And the big reason you want to do that is because of ammo. Ammo can be scarce in this game at times, particularly if you start playing on the harder difficulty settings. And if you have two people with the same gun, you end up fighting over the ammunition a lot.
Yeah, because the ammo is all specific to guns.
Yep. So it's like...
It's not like just general ammo.
Right. The ammo is specific to the assault rifle or the sniper rifle. And so if you have two people with sniper rifles and there's not that much ammo, you're fighting over it. One person ends up with ammo, another person ends up without it. So there's some nuance to this that maybe is a little more advanced over Left 4 Dead, but otherwise it is literally just a clone. Here's my big problem. So people have been complaining about if you play the game by yourself, there's no progression. You can play by yourself with a bunch of bots, but it never saves anything. So, and it also doesn't unlock achievements, and it doesn't unlock anything inside the game. It's basically just a wasted mode. And people have been complaining about that, and I totally get it. My big complaint is that the progression, even if you're playing with other people online, I've still yet to figure it out, Matt. I do not know how it works. I ended up playing the first act of this game for like 2 days before I finally got to the second act, and I have no idea what happened different to get me through it. You can play, so what I did at first was I started playing by myself, and I set it up so anybody could join. People did, and we made it through like the fourth section of the first act. It saved at that point. And that's where I ended up being saved at for like 2 days. Because if you want to pick up from that point, you go to start the game and you're like, okay, I want to continue my online campaign. You do that and you sit there. You have to hope that there's somebody else who wants to start at that exact act, at that exact point of that act. So I was on Act 1, Part 4. I could never find people to match up with. So I'd sit there for like 5 or 10 minutes waiting for the matchmaking to work. It wouldn't work. And then I'd back out, and I just select quick play. If you select quick play, you get no progression. None. At least I haven't figured out how to progress playing in another person's game. Maybe somebody in chat can help me out with this. I have completely flummoxed by this. Like I said, I eventually made it to Act 2 and to Act 3. I could not tell what happened to make it work so that I got to those acts. So as I said, I've played the first act of this game over and over again. And it doesn't help either because the first act was also a part of the beta. So I had already played it a ton. I could literally write a strategy guide for the first act of Back for Blood. Not that I would want to. Writing strategy guides are some of the most soul-crushing work in the games industry. But I could write one for the first act of this. So I've played it so much. You had brought up when we were talking about the beta, how I felt about, the quips and kind of the writing and if it helps build the characters. And I think I said that, I only got to play like 2 little sections of this. So maybe once I play the final game, I'll get a better read on it. That hasn't changed either playing the full game. There's plenty of writing and there's plenty of banter between characters and things like that. But it's not particularly funny or interesting or clever. Or even really context sensitive. Like sometimes they'll say, "Oh, I'm out of ammo. I need ammo," or "Help me up when you need revived." But there's not a lot of stuff that's like nuanced as far as like, "Oh my gosh, they're breaking in over there. Like go over to the right side of the map." Like none of that kind of stuff really happens. But if you want to kill a bunch of zombies cooperatively, this is a good spot to do it. And look, I totally get that a lot of you guys didn't play Left 4 Dead and didn't play Left 4 Dead 2. Maybe you didn't even get into gaming until after those games had kind of had their day in court, so to speak. 'Cause it's been a while.
Yep.
And for people like that, I think this is maybe a pretty good investment. I've spent a ton of hours with it between the beta and then the final version. So if I had paid full price for it, I probably still have already got my money's worth.
Yeah, I only played it because it was on Game Pass.
Oh.
If it wasn't on Game Pass, I would never have played this
I didn't even realize it was on Game Pass.
Yeah. The base, you don't get any of the deluxe content or anything. But yeah, it's on Game Pass.
Oh, that's great. Then if you have Game Pass, this is a no-brainer. And you guys have probably already been playing it if that's the case. I didn't even realize it was on there. But for those of you who don't know, maybe you are young enough that you never played Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2. It is a cooperative zombie shooter with 4 players. You basically fight from safe house to safe house. When you get to a safe house, there's a place to heal up. There's a trunk where you can buy new weapons and items. A lot of the cards that you get kind of manipulate that. So certain cards that you play will give you the ability to have like 2 health or first aid kits instead of just 1, or 3 grenades instead of just 1, or 3 toolkits instead of just 1. And these toolkits are this item that you can have that will let you unlock these kind of secret doors that you find throughout the levels. And if you get into those, they're a treasure trove. They're some of the best weapons you'll find in each map. There's tons of health in there, so if you're kind of struggling along. The other thing I would say, too, is that if you're new to this franchise, and even people who maybe aren't, I do recommend playing this on Rookie. If you play it on the middle difficulty setting, it is extremely frustrating. And you really have to coordinate with teammates to make it through if you play on the middle difficulty setting. And the easiest one isn't a cakewalk. Most of the zombies do go down with a couple well-placed bullets. But when you start fighting some of the bigger creatures in the game that take a lot more than that, and you take that into consideration with the fact that sometimes you just get swarmed by 30 or 40 zombies at once, to me there was plenty of challenge. I failed constantly playing with 3 other players on Rookie. In fact, I can't remember a single time where I just found a group of players where we just walked through the whole game, without dying or without having to start over or reset. So to me, the Rookie difficulty, I thought, was plenty of challenges. So if you're a noob, I highly recommend that that's what you do instead of jumping into the medium. And there's a reason that it's set by default to Rookie. At least I believe there is, because I think the developers realize Rookie is still pretty challenging, and especially for new players, it'll present enough of a challenge that I think people will enjoy it if they're not crazy experienced. And look, I played both Left 4 Deads. I play shooters all the time, and I still had fun playing it on Rookie. I didn't find that it was so easy that it was just pointless or anything like that. The boss fights are still tough. And look, in addition to the fog, there's also other variants that just pop up throughout the game. So when I played the beta, there's this boss called an ogre. And I thought that there was just the one mission in that act where an ogre shows up, you fight it, it digs back into the ground, it disappears, and it comes back later. As it turns out, stuff like the ogre are like variables that are fired off based upon like the cards that you've played and things like that. So look, it's no tornado in Battlefield 2042, but there's some cool stuff that just kind of pops up in this game out of nowhere that'll definitely surprise you. And believe me, I learned this because I played the first act so many stinking times. But again, if you play that middle difficulty setting, that's when you really got to coordinate. On Rookie, if there's like, okay, here's this thing, take it over here and set it down, like that's not a big deal. When you play it on the middle difficulty setting, you really have to coordinate with your teammates to accomplish some of those more, I don't know, out of the ordinary goals that some of the missions will actually throw at you. Matt, what did you find anything refreshing about the game?
No. Like, I mean, I didn't see a lot of the stuff you're talking about in that regard. I just, ran through it, and must have been on Rookie, I assume, because I didn't change anything in that regard. And it, it is what it is. It definitely did what it said. It's if you wanted Left 4 Dead 3, it is pretty much it. It plays pretty smooth. I found it pretty simple to get precision shots on things. Like I was using the rifles mostly, and could headshot things pretty reliably from the hip and aimed. Like the gunplay seemed fine. Level design seemed fine. There was sections where it's like, okay, if you can get through this section, you can sort of skip some stuff and not have to deal with it. But somebody fell off the thing, and now you got to help them, and now you got to find a way back up, and that means going through a lot more. I can definitely see how it would evolve, and sort of like I said, they use line of sight, they use distance and size of the areas in a way that Left 4 Dead didn't, because Left 4 Dead was not on that kind of hardware at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they did nothing, but it's not different enough and not intriguing enough for me to want to overcome my complete repulsion to that specific franchise.
There were a couple things that I brought up when we talked about it last time that I am going to reiterate. You may have forgotten that I said them, or maybe you missed that episode of GameFace or something like that. But I feel like the guns feel pretty good in this. Mm-hmm. I would even argue that some of the guns feel better in this than the guns in Battlefield 2042, but there is a very healthy auto aim. There are sometimes the auto aim is so bad that you're trying to sight up another enemy and it will just snap over to one you're not trying to shoot. So it does. And I think honestly, it may have been jacked up from the beta. I don't know if that was some of the feedback that the studio got about it, was that people were having problems targeting. But the auto aim in the final version, to me, is way more generous than it was before. And another thing that may bother some people, and it definitely bothers me, is this is another one of those co-op games where people run ahead and get all the good stuff. There was one time I got matched up with these two guys who were just destroying. It looked like they had played it like a billion times, and they literally left me and the other player like half a mile behind. And we were just left picking up scraps. We couldn't even keep up with them. They just ran ahead, got all the good stuff, got to the safe house, and they were waiting at the safe house for us for 5 minutes before we finally showed up, me and the other player. And so, again, to what I was talking about earlier, there's a finite amount of ammo for each weapon type. And so if one of those guys had an assault rifle, and so did I. And granted, they had wiped out a lot of the enemies. We didn't have to fight that many of them, but I had no ammo by the time I got to the safe house because they had taken it. So that is an element of this game that is a common element in a lot of cooperative shooters that they have not managed to solve for this one. Just kind of some caveats that you should keep in mind.
I find that I find that odd in a number of ways, just in part because it's who thinks ammo management is that fascinating?
I don't know.
Who gives a shit? It's one thing if trying to not run out of ammo in your magazine at a bad time, so you have to reload while these things are. That's fun. That's a cool moment to moment management thing. But having to worry about running out of ammo completely, and then there's no way to fix. I don't know if that's an interesting problem, especially in a game like this. And I didn't feel like that was. I don't remember running out of ammo in Left 4 Dead much. that I don't remember that being a problem. That the idea that like people could hog the ammo wasn't really an issue. Like taking the guns I wanted, I remember that was a constant argument, like who got this gun or that gun. But I don't remember having I remember I think it was just like ammo things where just like everybody's got refilled on the ammo, and maybe there was limited numbers, but I think it was 4 reloads on each thing at least. Mm-hmm. Sort of like the health, like you know usually there was 4 health packs at the safe house or at the checkpoint places or whatever.
Yep. Well, there's like things on the walls now, but it has like 4 uses or whatever, and people can do it twice and take one of your like health charges, which is pretty dirty, but it happens. The other thing I would say too.
That's the other thing that's unappealing about this to me is like, you're gonna have to play with other people. Yeah,
because you do get jerks. Like again, it's something I mentioned the last time we discussed it. Is you can fall off ledges in this, and you're hanging there on the ledge as if you're dead or you're downed, and so you have to wait.
Yeah, Leopard Dead 2 did that.
So you have to wait for someone to come over and like lift you up on the ledge, and some people just troll you. Mm-hmm. They'll come over to the ledge and they'll act like they're gonna lift you up, and then they'll just run away. Like, so there's like, again, to your point about you have to play with other people, there's definitely caveats to that. And I had not used voice chat for a long time, and you end up with an idiot who just likes to hear himself talk all the time.
Or playing music.
Yeah, or you end up with like 2 people who are best bros who sit there and have a conversation about what happened in high school that day. Mm-hmm. And you have to sit there and listen to them talk about the most idiotic crap for like an hour. So it is interesting. I had not used voice chat for a while. I saw the good and the bad in it in the span of the few days that I played the final version of this game. And then another thing is I played the beta on PS5. I played the final version on Series X, and I would argue it looks better on Series X. There was some screen tearing that I saw in the PS5 version, which is kind of starting to become a little bit of a theme that I've been seeing lately, which is not encouraging. Mm-hmm. And it just everything looked crisper and clearer on Series X than it did on PS5. I don't know why.
Probably higher resolution.
Maybe. I don't know why that is, but to me,
because Series X is a little more powerful.
Yeah.
Like in a raw state.
In a raw sense, yeah. And so to me, it looked a little better on Series X than it did on PS5. If you're someone who owns both and you're maybe trying to figure out which one you should buy.
Also, if you have Game Pass, just play it on that.
How did I not realize it was on there? I guess I didn't check because they sent me a code for it.
You sent a code for the PS5 version. Why would you look?
No, the final version I played was Xbox Series X.
Oh.
They sent me. Why would they even bother sending me review code for Series X?
I guess because it'd be earlier.
Well, I guess they don't know if I have a sub to Game Pass.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, they can't expect you to.
Yeah. Look, I did enjoy it, and I have enjoyed it. I haven't finished it yet. I've played more than enough to inform you guys on whether you guys should buy it or not, though. I can guarantee that. In some parts, I'm an expert on Act 1 of Back 4 Blood. Let me just tell you that. And I have had fun with it. It's a mindless kind of game that when you play it on the higher difficulties, it becomes far less mindless and maybe too mindful for having to coordinate with randoms online. Mm-hmm. If you have a group of 3 friends that you can always play with, you're golden.
Yeah, if I still had a group of regular online playing friends like I did, 10 years ago or whatever, it'd probably be different. But...
I think that's one of the worst parts about getting old, Matt, is that I don't have people to play games with online anymore. Hardly any of my friends that I used to play with play games online.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I don't really miss it. Like, I never liked being beholden to sort of schedules of like, oh, tonight we got to do this, tonight we got to.
Yeah.
And part of that was because, like, like back then, I lived a much more structured and home focused life with my live-in girlfriend and all. There were no plans or surprise. Now I'm a little more spontaneous about what I do, so I don't like having like every Thursday locked down to play online games. Like it's one of the reasons I've never got super into MMOs. This is like I don't want to do that every night. So I don't miss playing multiplayer games much. It was a good run. But I
liked
fine.
it more for the social aspect.
Yeah.
Like my buddies all play poker now, and I like poker. It's fine, but they literally play poker 3 nights a week online on Zoom and blah blah blah. It all started with COVID.
Right, I'm sure.
I would rather play Back 4 Blood with them than sit and play poker with them.
I like poker, but I don't find online poker particularly. I like in-person poker.
Yeah. When you can actually read.
When you can actually play the game with people. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But they have all thrown away gaming to want to be poker stars. So
All right.
I do miss it, and I do wish that I could still play games with my friends back in Philadelphia. It was a good way to kind of stay in touch with them and just kind of catch up. In other words, be that annoying person that I was complaining about earlier from high school, where they're talking about like, oh, Sally's dating blah blah blah. So anyway, I have had fun with the game. If you're wondering if there's like a story in it, not really. There's like these little cut scenes that kind of happen.
Yeah,
like
it's less of a story and more of a situation.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Because if you watch this trailer, you might be fooled into thinking, oh, there's like a plot that like I follow.
No,
along.
not really. Like the one guy is new. Like, you know, the younger guy has been recently acquired by the group, and there's clearly like they hint clearly at like history between various characters, but it doesn't really. At least from what I saw, it didn't go into really much.
Yeah, it doesn't amount to much. You're not going to play this game for the story.
No.
I'll just
like
tell
the
you
one
that
older
right.
woman's name is Chris, but the others insist that she be called Mom for some reason.
Yeah,
it's a little weird.
Yeah,
a lot of it's a little weird.
It's a little off, but it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Like,
also, like, I guess the zombies in this are called the Ridden because they're parasites. Like in this, it's like they're worms that have
infected them. Yeah,
and like to the point that when you in the scene in the close, if you're close up to one or if you see it in like the cutscenes, like worms fly out of them when they get killed. Like when they shoot them and stuff. That would definitely infect you, like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like the part of the thing that kept. Yeah, this is a stupid nitpick, but it's like that would definitely get you. Like if you were anywhere near one of these things and got that on you, the odds are it would get in you more. It's not like the magic zombie thing where it's like if you get bitten, you turn into one.
Yeah,
like that's sort of the easy
it's like The
way.
Walking Dead. They'll blow a zombie's head off. Blood will fly all over their face.
Right.
And obviously would go in their eyes and in their
eyes
mouth.
or mouths. No, yeah, apparently
and they
not.
just soldier on.
Only if it's a bite for some reason.
It's absurd. It's a contrivance.
And it's like, well, it has to be in the saliva. I'm like, do you think no saliva? A corpse is not producing saliva, so what are you talking about?
Right.
B, do you think when you blow their head apart, some of that substance, whatever you want to call it, isn't part of the head splatter that gets in your face?
Yeah.
Like, it's best not to think about it. It's a plot
it's really
device.
not.
But
just
like,
turn off your brain while you're playing. But I
also found it, like, just as a Left 4 Dead person, I found like the special types of zombies are all have such clear equivalents to Left 4 Dead.
Oh yeah.
To the point that it annoyed me that they were calling them by different names.
Right.
I'm just like, just call it a bloater. Like,
They
just
can't probably.
They can, I'm sure they can't. Yeah, they absolutely can't. But it's just Left 4 Dead with the serial number filed off in a lot of places, and I found that like weirdly annoying, even as someone who would never want to play Left 4 Dead again.
Not as annoying as how repetitive the enemies are in this game, though.
Yeah, I mean that's also true to the brand.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's something I'm wondering if, when they finally kind of ditch this 2-gen development, if maybe that will be a part of games that can change going forward. Is with games like this, you get more than... There's literally like 4 regular enemy types, and then there's probably like 5 special zombies or special creatures, the bigger ones, or the ones that have special attack patterns or special abilities, and then there's the ogre. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. Like, pretty much everything that you just saw in that trailer that we showed after the B-roll, that's kind of the whole game's content in a nutshell. And there's just new levels, and most of the mission objectives, they aren't very creative. It's like, hey, defend this spot, turn on this jukebox, it's going to call all the zombies, and defend the jukebox. And then after you defend the jukebox, you get in a Humvee, and you take off, and the mission's over. Like, that's kind of how it plays out. It's mostly just like...
Well, at least the jukebox is okay.
It's mostly just get from point A to point B.
Yeah. And
get to the safe house, restock, heal up, fight to the next point. And then depending on the cards that you've played and some of the other elements, you may get, an ogre thrown in there or some other special zombies. But for the most part, it's just kind of a rinse and repeat game.
Yeah. That's kind of my problem.
Yeah. And I could totally
I've rinsed and repeated a lot
many times
already.
before. I've said this a couple times in the last couple months. Something I cognitively try to do is remember that there are people who have not played all the games that I've played. Mm-hmm. I've played side-scrolling platformers. I've played 1 billion of them. A lot of people haven't. Left 4 Dead, cooperative shooters. I've played just hundreds of them, literally hundreds of them. Some people may have played 1 or 2. So I feel like that's something I need to be aware of as I continue to get older and the median age of the game player slowly creeps up, but for the most part is still staying in that same place. So
I don't know what the reason, but for a long time, the median age of gamers was my age,
right,
and continued to be that as I got older.
Mm-hmm.
Because partly,
but we've left it in the dust now because the
know.
average age has not increased at the same rate as our age has. Because you're always going to have the younger players joining at the bottom end of the scale. So when I was 33, I think I was the average age of the gamer. But it's still like 33, or it's like now it's up to like 35 or something like that.
34.
Yeah. And it was 33 like 12 years ago. So the average age of the gamer goes up slowly, much slower than we age. So that's just something I'm trying to keep in mind. I know all you guys aren't like us. You haven't been playing games for 40 years or however long it's been. And so I try to keep that in mind when I evaluate games and try to give some games the benefit of the doubt where really in my heart I'm like, this is like a game I've played like 100 times. It's an interesting thing that you have to do because this is all new. We're like the first wave of people to really evaluate games on the level that we evaluate them on. Us and kind of all our colleagues that started back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So this is all fresh and new. I'm dealing with stuff like this. Getting older while the median age, you're kind of leaving it behind. And I mean,
if you never played Left 4 Dead and this looks interesting to you and you have people that you can rely on to play with, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I got to play it.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's Back for Blood. It's available for everything but Switch. That's not going to be a game that they can get to work on the cloud. Like
no, I feel like that would be a hard sell.
Yeah, an online game like that, trying to play a cloud version of that. So it's probably never coming to Switch. I will say this, though. I mean,
might be fun to watch people try to do that.
Oh, my gosh. To try to get it to run over 5 frames a second or whatever. Even if you chop down all the detail on everything with that many zombies, I don't know. Did World War Z ever release for Switch?
I don't remember.
Because it's very similar. And I think I even said the last time we discussed this that, like, if you can find World War Z for, like, $5 or $10, I would recommend that over Back 4 Blood. Both games have their strengths and their weaknesses, but my guess is World War Z at this point is way cheaper.
Unless you have Game Pass.
Right. And if they have Game Pass, they've already played it. And they're like, I know, Shane, shut up and move on to the next topic. So anyway, there you go. That's Back 4 Blood. Again, available for everything. It's on Game Pass. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, you've either played it or you just haven't booted it up for a while. But it's there. And as Matt said earlier, it is just a standard edition, but who cares? What do you get with the other version? Some cosmetics or some crap? Like,
it's not worth the extra money.
It's not. No. Absolutely. And if you have Game Pass, it's definitely not. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game developer that I can't figure out, Matt. I can't figure out why he's so popular. I have played most of his games, and I honestly was surprised to find out today when I really started looking into it this morning that he had made games from the original PlayStation era. If you're wondering who we're talking about,
he goes way back.
Yeah, he goes way back. He also looks like he's like 19 still.
Yeah, he's ageless.
It's
some
insane.
Kind of vampire.
That's why I never would have guessed that he had made games for so long. If you're wondering who we're talking about, it's Swery. Let's see. I created a list of some of his more popular games. Probably his most popular is Deadly Premonition. And have there been 3 of those or 2 of those?
Two of those.
2 of those. And it is like a detective adventure with some supernatural stuff thrown in there.
It's Twin Peaks.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually.
Like, the first game is literally Twin Peaks, like, fan fiction.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, there's an equivalent of every Twin Peaks character in that game.
Wow. Shameless.
Instead of a log lady, there's the pot lady. The sheriff is basically... I mean, they're all there. It's all there.
Yeah.
Like, playing that is just like, oh, you are just... I mean, the main character is an FBI agent who talks to himself all the time. Like it's literally just Agent Cooper, except in Deadly Premonition, it turns out he really is possessed by a demon. Yeah. A second game is weirder in terms
and more broken, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, they put some patches up to try to fix it, but it still runs like ass. And I never finished it. I couldn't.
I didn't either.
Because like part of the charm of the first game was how just like the first game is not good. It's broken and janky and hard to play, and the gameplay is awful. The shooting is terrible, but like there's something like weirdly earnest about it. There's something like the music is like you can't decide whether you like the music or not, but the music fits somehow, but also makes it more endearing. Like the acting is still it feels like a relic from the PS1 days almost, but it also like
I would say that all his games feel like that.
there's an element of that, but it's like there's just something charming about some of them, not all of them, but some of them, and like it's sort of like Suda 51 in a way, or in a way where it's like these aren't the
similar,
most polished thing in the world, but no one else is doing anything like this, so you kind of like appreciate what you're being given, even if it's not fully baked.
Yep. And then continuing on his cavalcade of releases, D4, Dark Dreams Don't Die, and The Missing were all kind of the bigger games that most recently were released before this one, which is called The Good Life. Matt, why do you think Swery kind of has this cachet?
Well, I don't know if I'd really say he does. Like he operates very much on the fringes of sort of the small budget game.
But there are so many people that make small budget games, and we have no idea who those people are. But we know him.
We do, but I feel like most people are not going to know who Swery 64 is, 65 is. See, I can't even remember what number he is.
I didn't know he had a number.
Yeah.
I just know him as Swery.
Swery, he goes by Swery 65, I think, or 60. Yeah. I remember first learning about him as Swery 65.
Huh.
In Deadly Premonition era. Yeah, I mean, Deadly Premonition is probably the peak of his stuff. The first one. That's the. Believe it or not, that's where everything kind of came together the best.
Yeah.
This one was a Kickstarter, The Good Life. I
Yeah.
did not kickstart it because it sounded very strange, and there was sort of this element of like.
And it is.
It is, but there's an element of like, are you actually gonna be able to pull that off in the way you're describing it? And the answer is no. But everything that was said in the Kickstarter to be there is there, but it's just there in a very rudimentary fashion.
Matt, how do they describe this game on Steam? There's a very funny...
Like, the description is something like, go to a quaint English town in this charming debt repayment RPG or something. Like, the implication is that, like, it's mostly going to be about this woman going to this, like, little English hamlet and doing a photojournalism assignment to repay her debts back home.
Yeah, she's, like, way in debt. And she goes to this small town to take photos to make the money to pay off
somehow
her debt.
that's going to be a big moneymaker for her in ways that are not explained. And by the
They
end
do
of
explain it eventually.
sort of, but by the end
she goes on the Flamingo app, which is basically Instagram,
Right.
and starts selling her photos there.
yeah,
or not
but
selling
she's
them,
also
but-
supposed to be paid by the publication she works
Right.
for apparently a lot of money for doing this job that no one would ever care about. But then by the end of the first day, like she meets a weirdly chipper girl in a wheelchair named Elizabeth, whose head moves independently of her hair in the character model. And the weirdest thing is, like, there's a lot of scenes where Elizabeth gets a huge major close up to make her seem creepy or whatever, and you can see the character model's head vibrating under the hair, which is a separate piece like stuck on the character model, and you're like, is that intentional, or like, why wouldn't you, like, there she is. You'll even see it, I think, a little bit here. Like, you can kind of see that the hair is not attached to her
the head.
And I'm like, why? If you're going to show that character model that close all the time, why wouldn't you? Maybe it's intentional. I don't know.
This is one of those games that I talk about where I say it feels like it's held together with Scotch tape.
Yeah,
It feels like it's always on
all his games are
right
like
on the
that.
edge of crashing.
Yeah, all his games are a little bit like that. And by the end of the first, she's basically told you to, like, enjoy the most happiest town on earth or whatever. But then she also said, don't go out at night because it's too dangerous. And you're like, what? And you do anyway, and it turns out that everybody in the town transforms into dogs and cats at the full moon, and then you end up except for Elizabeth, and you end up chasing her into the woods and finding a witch's cabin who makes a concoction for you that turns you into a cat.
Yeah.
And then after that, you can turn into a cat whenever you want, and you can even do it in front of people. No one bats an eye. Like, it's just that's a game mechanic now. You can just transform into a kitten with sunglasses on her head whenever you want.
And then the cat can climb up walls.
Cat can climb walls. Cat can hunt things and, like, get you. That's how you get crafting components, because you have to use components to cook and to craft things to improve your house and do complete quests and plant things in your garden and decorate your garden. Like, it becomes like a weird Animal Crossing sort of thing eventually.
This game reminds me a lot of Animal Crossing.
And there's a clock running
in
at all
Bizarro
times.
Land.
And you have to be places at certain times, and she has to sleep and eat and keep her stamina up, and then, like, there's a whole thing where, like, you eventually do get to turn into a dog as well, and like the townspeople, because they turn into cats and dogs, either like cats or like dogs. So the more time you spend or interact with them as a dog or a cat, the more they will like or dislike you. So there's a whole balance on that too. None of which is particularly well explained. Although I will say one of my favorite things in the game, like here you see the email, like you're using this ancient computer in this house they give you when you arrive. They give you a house.
Give you a house.
They give you a house with land attached to it, and you upload your photos to Instagram and stuff. And if you have like Flamingo, and if you have things in them that are the current buzzword, you'll get more likes and more money from that. The thing that I love is when you upload them, if you try to upload more than one at once, the subsequent ones take longer until the first one's done. Like you're literally on a dial-up connection, and it's like the first one takes like 8 seconds to load up, but the third one takes like 30.
Yeah, and
it's like that's a nice touch. I like that. And then you can kind of watch the likes go up. And usually it's pretty related to what's the subject of the photo, but every once in a while I'm just like, I took a picture of a potted geranium and I got like 2,000 likes. And like a picture of a cat killing a bird, or like a bunch of cats and sheep in a meadow, like got like nothing.
Yeah,
like people like very specific things, or just a picture of the local pub gets a huge amount of likes, and like a picture of like a rocker girl bartending gets nothing.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Much rhyme or reason to it.
Then again, that's social media for you.
Yeah, and there's several meters that you have to keep track of. There's health, there's hunger, there's stamina,
charisma,
and then a wellness meter.
A wellness meter and a charisma meter.
Yeah,
which goes back and forth depending on how pleasant, I guess, you are. I hadn't figured it all out.
I haven't either. I don't know that I want to, Matt.
And then the stamina bar.
To be honest,
there's a stamina bar for when you run, and if you run too long, you run out, but then it recharges. And then like you can extend the stamina meter if you like eat the right food. It's a lot of weird busy work.
Yeah.
In the name of sort of unraveling this mystery of this town.
I feel like the game in general is just a lot of busy work.
Yeah, unless you want to know like where it's going with like the weird mystery in the town. Like it's very much an adventure game.
Yeah.
That like doesn't
with,
let you
simulation.
Well, it doesn't let you skimp on the transit sequences. Basically.
Yeah.
Eventually, you can teleport between like these shrines, but it does cost money. You
got to run a lot around. You got to run around a lot.
Although
like once you become the cat, the cat does run faster,
and the cat can jump over walls, and like you're not as constrained by the weird environment.
Which
choices.
Is so weird. At the beginning, you have to like run to the end of these walls. It won't let you climb over the walls. Like, yeah.
Like to some degree, I think the implication is that Naomi is not someone who would climb a wall, but as a cat, I guess she doesn't care.
I mean, if it keeps you from walking an extra mile, I think most people will climb a wall. But
yeah, she's not used to that. She's a very surly character, at least early on. Everybody else in the town is just a crazy person. Like does seem to be Swery's thing. Is just like he's enough of a Twin Peaks fan that he just constantly makes games about
insane
towns of lunatics.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. As Matt mentioned, there is a working clock. You can see it in the top right of the screen there. There's a lot of mission objectives that you get where you're like, honestly, a lot of the mission objectives are just collect X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. It seems to be 80% of the missions is like, go here and find this herb or find these seeds or whatever before 8 a.m. or before whatever time. And so there's a lot of this like, there's 3 things I need to gather. Here's where they are on the map. I have this amount of time to get it. What's the best pathway to take to make sure I collect them all and turn them in before the time expires? And there's a lot of, just making sure your character has eaten, has slept. If you run too much, the stamina runs out. It's just one of those. It's like I said, it's like Animal Crossing on a really low budget with supernatural and detective elements. That's probably, if I had to write a sentence about the game, that is the sentence that I would probably write. As far as letting the most amount of people understand what the game is in a very short period of time. But I have not particularly enjoyed this, which prompted me to wonder aloud, why do people like Swery in his games? If I feel like there's this like cult built around him for some reason. I saw a lot of people online making excuses for Deadly Premonition 2 for just glaring issues, and people being like, that's Swery, that's what he does. Almost like they feel like he inserts bugs and stuff into his games on purpose.
I don't think so. I mean, I do find Deadly Premonition 1, or I did at the time. I found it very charming and unusual, and I liked it very much, and I finished it. Yeah, I went through the whole thing. I've never been able to replay it. It doesn't really like do anything for
well,
me.
once the shock, you go through the big moments in the shock the first time, it loses its charm in a lot of cases.
Deadly Premonition 2 just doesn't. Deadly Premonition 2 makes the mistake of trying to recreate what I think was mostly accidental camp. You can't intentionally make Deadly
accidental
Premonition.
camp. Yeah.
You can't you can't recreate that. There's a lightning in a bottle element that it feels like a lot of his subsequent games have been trying to recapture, and you just can't do that on purpose.
Yeah.
This, I think, is probably the most successful at it since Deadly Premonition 1. Certainly Deadly Premonition 2 didn't really pull that off. D4 was a disaster to the point that it never got finished for a good reason. This is, I think people who like Deadly Premonition 1 may find this to be the right balance of tedious and weird to sort of recapture that to some degree. I wonder what TV show he's basing this on that I don't recognize. It's some, it's suddenly he's enamored of the British countryside for some reason,
which makes no sense whatsoever.
But there's a tradition of that in sort of old anime, the sort of vaguely European cozy cottage core anime thing, which like a lot of Studio Ghibli stuff falls, like Kiki's Delivery Service, and a lot of that is there. And like you saw, like that trend is like a early mid 80s thing where a lot of stuff like took place. Lupin had that.
Yeah.
A bunch of, but that was a thing. Like that is a thing over there, and so maybe it doesn't surprise me as someone of his age, he's not much older than us, but he would have a fondness for that in the same way I have a fondness for sort of like, the hand drawn mecha stuff from the 80s, like Gundam and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they're referring to here. And like he clearly has, there's a lot of Twin Peaks influence here anyway, because of the strange town, obsession with food, finding mystery from an outsider kind of thing. She's sort of Nami's sort of an opposite of Agent Cooper, whereas Agent Cooper is a thoroughly pleasant and completely competent person who finds the good in everything, and she's just a very bitter New Yorker who doesn't want to be where she is and continually calls the town a hellhole.
Yep.
Which it isn't. It's a very charming. I would be bored out of my mind after 2 days, but like
but it's not a hellhole.
No, it's fine.
Like, lady, you never been to a hellhole. You think that place is one? Some comments from chat. Texture Glitch says cults of personalities are not meant to be understood, Shane.
Yeah.
Which is true.
I would say his cult of personality is not particularly large. Like it doesn't like people. Swery being beloved by a small group of people like that does not bother me in the way that Kojima's cult does.
And then Justin Horman says, whenever I see something like a Swery game, or even Suda 51, now I just mentally replace the names with mediocre, and I feel that ends up being true. Mm-hmm. No, that's not a stretch. And then Sneaky says, in defense of a cult, who knows why, I'm part of the David Cage cult, and we're like 9 million members. I think he might be a little generous.
Few zeros over the line on that one. Most people have no idea who that hack is. So.
I don't think that they've ever sold 9 million copies of any game they've made.
Quantic Dream?
Yeah.
I don't remember what their sales numbers are.
Heavy Rain, I don't think got there.
But also, like that would be the
Beyond definitely didn't get there.
That would be the total amount of sales, and I guarantee you, 90% of the people who play those games have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Probably so. Let's see what else. The premise, Leonosaurus, the premise of this game sounds like something you'd read off of, and it was censored. I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
Would you recommend people pick this up if they don't have Game Pass, Matt?
No.
Do you recommend they play it on Game Pass even?
I mean, it's worth trying on Game Pass. It's just, I mean, it's bizarre. Like if any of what we've talked about have made you go like, what? Like what? If it's piqued your interest at all, it's probably worth an install. It's not that big a game.
Yeah.
You'll know in the space of like an hour if you want to keep going or not.
Yeah, you figure it out real fast. Because also within an hour, you start to realize what the loop is, and that it's also pretty repetitive.
Yeah, and you can see like that's awful. Like the animation of the cat, and like like there's something like the idea of turning into a cat, and like that's not even like that's like PS2. That's like PS2 games were better than that.
I mean, look at the character models in this. Like all the objects are really low poly. There's no reason for them to be low poly anymore. Mm-hmm. But this engine, it does like I've seen it chug a couple times.
Yeah,
and it's It's literally displaying like a couple 100,000 polygons at certain points. It's not a very detailed game.
Yeah, Sneaky, I think you're really stretching the definition of huge on this. Those games are not particularly well known.
Vincent says that Detroit sold over 2 million.
That's not.
Yeah, that's not
much. That's definitely not 9. No. I mean, I guess
Detroit and especially Connor has a huge following. What's Connor?
Connor's a character.
In what?
Isn't he the FBI, the agent guy in Detroit?
I think Sneaky, you're in a cult, bro. That's the thing about cults. They try to make it feel like everyone else agrees with you.
Yeah.
And that everybody else are the weirdos, but that's not how it is in reality. I would probably spend $10 on this game.
And it's not $10. I was shocked to learn the actual price of this game.
How much? Oh, $30,
$30.
right? Yeah, no way.
This is not a $30 game.
Have you finished this game?
No. I think this game's probably like 100 hours.
You think?
I think his games go on forever.
Oh,
I
didn't
completely
realize that.
forgot that this starts with a retelling of the Dick Whittington and his cat story.
Yeah,
like,
where he sells the cat for like a fortune somehow.
Yeah, he rents the cat to ships to kill all the vermin, and he gets rich off that. Basically,
Yeah.
so he and his cat become celebrities, and he becomes mayor of London and stuff. It's a classic. It's actual classic, like kind of folktale kind of thing.
And I'm not sure how it relates to the game. Eventually, maybe it's explained. I don't know, but yeah. So that's The Good Life. What other platforms is it on, actually?
It's on almost everything.
PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But
This game can definitely run on Switch. No problem.
okay, yeah. I mean, it has trouble running in places on the Xbox Series X. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like on the
That's a good
Switch.
point. The only reason it could not run on Switch is the engine. Not
Yeah,
because
it's not
of
the
what...
Switch's fault for once.
Exactly. It's not the hardware's fault. But yeah, I take a hard pass on that game. I spent a couple hours with it, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I got a little taste of weirdness and a good taste of the jank, and that's pretty much all I needed.
That's actually a good compare. Like, what is it? Yabalbo 1? Like, I have no idea what that name is, but
He is a video game equivalent of The Room.
yeah, like David Cage is the Tommy Wiseau of video games. That's good. Like, he has no idea what he does is garbage, but people kind of appreciate it for being garbage, maybe.
Sneaky saying, look him up and his Connor army. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people who like to do fan art of that stupid Android, but like that.
Andy T. Monham brings up a good point. Wait to play Stray. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, if you have Game Pass,
Yeah.
screw it. Like, why not?
I mean,
I think everything we're talking about today is on Game Pass.
Is it?
Yeah. The next thing is too.
No.
Yeah.
What do you mean the next game that
Next
we talk
game,
about?
yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, that just shows you what's going on with Game Pass right now.
Yeah.
It's the best deal in gaming, hands down. And there's a reason why although people said that 30 million figure ended up not being true. Mm-hmm. They haven't announced numbers yet, so I don't know how people
Who knows?
figured that out.
That is kind of an ongoing thing with like these weird new service ideas and models, like where like nobody releases numbers and talks about numbers. Like, I don't know if you saw the article on why The Last Man got canceled. You see that?
No, huh?
Why The Last Man is already, they're not Hulu.
I saw that it was
and
canceled,
Yeah, they're
but
not
I
picking it
didn't
up for
know
another season. But an article about kind of why and everything happened. Part of it was COVID timing, because in order to make to reserve the cast for another few months to decide whether to let the season finish and decide if they want to do more, they'd have to shell out an extra $3 million to kind of reserve everything, and they decided just not to do that. One of the reasons is FX has no idea how well the show is doing because Hulu doesn't tell anyone numbers. And
how do you sign deals with service providers that will not
none of them
provide the data?
None of them do. Yet Netflix doesn't.
So I'm assuming
Hulu
those
doesn't.
deals aren't based upon viewers or ratings.
That's the thing, is they're based on kind of nothing. Like, that's why the model has to change, because Hulu doesn't tell anyone outside of themselves, and this is, Hulu and FX are both owned by Disney. Like, they're both owned by the same parent company, but Hulu does not disclose internal numbers. The same thing happens with, like, I guarantee you, like Dave Letterman doesn't know what his viewership was on his Netflix show, because Netflix doesn't tell anyone that.
I've been aware of that for a long
It doesn't
time.
matter.
Yeah.
And they all work like that.
Yeah.
So basically, these production companies and these outside networks are signing these deals, and they're never going to get any feedback on how the audience reacted or what the the only time you get any numbers is when they put out, the streaming companies put out some kind of bragging PR press release about something, the way Netflix is doing with Squid Game. Like, so you never know. Like, even internally, like, you will never find... If you make a show for Netflix or Hulu, you will never know how well it did.
That's got to be maddening.
It is.
I mean...
It is. Like, I know specifically, like, firsthand of pretty major named people who had shows on some of these services who, like, went to the effort to, like, let's go do lunch. Let's go hang out with the execs from Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus or whatever. And, like, they wouldn't tell them. Like, people you would not think someone would turn down their question about this. And they got turned down. Like, it's madness.
They're playing by new rules now. Weird. I mean,
But those rules have no end game. Like, what's the point? Like, you can't... Eventually, you're going to run out of people willing to work for you if they have no feedback on that.
I think a lot of people, as long as they get paid, they don't care about it.
But you want something that sustains, and, like, you know, Why the Last Man could have been a big hit moving into the next few seasons, and we're never... I mean, they're probably going to shop it around to other places. Like, you know, Netflix might pick it up because the streaming wars are on. Yeah. So
I just saw that Disney Plus just passed Netflix. Is that right?
I didn't see that.
There's some kind of, like...
That seems impossible to me because Netflix has so many subscribers.
I know. Like, I couldn't believe it either, Matt. I was like, wait a minute. Like, I can't remember where I saw it. It may have been during football on Sunday, actually, where someone was talking about how Disney Plus, maybe it's revenue or something. I don't know. It had passed Netflix in some metric.
It might be like engagement or
That's
something.
possible.
Because, like, I'm sure people, you know...
Which is probably a big reason why these streaming companies don't share data.
Yeah.
Because they don't want Disney Plus to be able to say,
right. But also because they don't have but Netflix didn't do that long before Disney Plus existed. Like, this is just how... They don't tell anyone how anything does. But it's like... It's one thing to not make public your viewership numbers, but to not tell the people who made the show what their show is doing is bizarre.
It is bizarre.
Like, there's no precedent for that in broadcast or cable, for that matter. So you're kind of like, well, how do you have no feedback at that point? At least even in movies, your feedback is the box office receipts, right?
Yeah.
Like, or sales of your home release or whatever. But if you have no idea, if you made an original show for Netflix and you have no idea how well it did beyond maybe one day Netflix says, hey, yeah, if you want to make another one of those, we'll pay for that. Like, how
now, bringing it back to games,
no one has any idea.
You don't think that Microsoft is doing this with Game Pass, do you? Do you think they're supplying the data to third parties?
I think they're paying them out for... I don't know if they're giving them actual data of how many people have installed and played things. Like, I don't know.
So they're just having to trust that Microsoft isn't shorting them in some way if the deal is based upon number of players.
Well, here's the thing is, like, most of the people I know who have made deals for Game Pass basically said that what they got paid for Game Pass is more than they expected to make from the game, period.
Wow.
Like, in their best case projections. Like, I know 3 people specifically who told me they paid them more than their best case scenario across all platforms. So off of one platform from one deal, they'd already made more money than they thought they were going to make from the game total. So every other sale on PC and PlayStation and Switch or whatever was gravy.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case with this game, with Swery.
Yeah.
Basically, what Microsoft gave
and also
him
consider
and his
that
team was more than he needed to break even.
Right, and also consider that this is a Kickstarted game.
Yeah, it was paid. So the development was paid for already. Yeah.
So everybody did just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting time because these financial models are so different, not just for games, but for TV and film.
And because of the streaming service, because of there's just an extra layer of obfuscation for people like us who are not directly involved. So it's getting harder and harder. It's going to be harder and harder to tell what's doing well beyond just like, well, it got another season or it got a sequel, so I guess it's doing okay. You know, like, who can tell? And then, like, you got things like, you know, like when they release numbers for things like Zack Snyder's Justice League, they release, you know, this one, you know, third-party site that this company that supposedly can track these things, but then it turned out they were the numbers they're releasing were people who had watched 5 minutes or more of the movie, and it's a 4-hour movie. So, like, who the hell cares if somebody watched 5 minutes of it? You know, like, you want to know who watched the whole thing, right? But that is continually sort of the best they can do, and most of that is estimation anyway. So you have no real idea what any of these things are doing.
Do you think, as a creator, that you prefer that?
No,
every paid regardless of
every creator I know, at least in terms of dealing with streaming services, finds it maddening. Finds it because
they just don't have enough feedback.
There's no feedback to know what you need to do differently or better, or like what people liked, what people didn't like. You know, you do surveys and focus group testing, social media surveys, whatever. But, you know,
the streaming service has much more concrete data of what people are doing. I mean, Netflix, if they wanted to, could tell you exactly when the most people stopped watching your movie.
Yeah.
What scene made people stop.
We never had.
You'll never know that.
Yeah, and we've never had the opportunity for that kind of data before.
Not
really.
on that scale. No,
Yeah.
I mean, you could do focus tests and focus groups, like a one audience, like questionnaire thing. But like Netflix could tell you that about every single human being who turned that thing on.
I know.
And how interesting would that data be to have?
Oh, that data is worth a gold mine.
Yeah, which is probably why they don't tell you.
They don't want to give.
But what are they doing with it? That's the question.
You would assume they're developing their own content or their own stuff around.
And I mean, and certainly Netflix is spending billions every year on making. I mean, they know internally what they're.
Right.
They know what The Witcher does, and they're
Yeah.
the one funding that. So that's all to them. That's all. The only person who needs to know is them.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like Squid Game. A lot of this stuff I feel like today just catches on organically.
Yeah.
It's not really about like marketing. It's all word of mouth now.
Right. Well, Squid Game is also interesting. Squid Game is weirdly analogous to something like The Good Life in some ways, not just because it's a weird thing made in Asia, but it's like Squid Game. It costs about $20 million. It has no major.
I'm surprised it costs that much, man.
It has
to be honest with
it has no major stars. The lead actor is fairly well known in South Korea, but he's not an international name. No IP, no recognizability outside of being inspired by kind of a battle royale thing.
And the dub is clumsy.
The dub is not
awkward.
amazing. No.
Yeah.
And but also welcome to how everybody else experiences film and television.
Yeah, that's true.
Like dubs are standard across the world for American entertainment, like, to the point that like the guy who dubs Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice in any given country is usually a celebrity of his own for being the dub voice of Arnold Schwarzenegger in that country. Like that's a common thing.
That's interesting.
Like major stars have set dub actors for each country a lot of times, and a lot of times that actor, like Brad Pitt's dub actor in Singapore, is probably a celebrity for being Brad Pitt's voice actor. Like it's a thing.
It is interesting how.
But Squid Game
you
is
don't
an
have to
interesting.
pay for marketing and stuff. And if you're at a certain scale,
people
you
will
don't
find
have
it.
to. Like we, as Sifted, we have to pay for marketing.
Sure, but
So
we're not
otherwise
on we're not on Netflix.
Right,
so.
but with you, if you're Netflix, like if you have something that's good, it's just gonna. People are just gonna figure it out.
Yeah, well, the algorithm will push it, but you can't like sell it off the back of it. But if people find it, discover it, word of mouth takes it there. Like that's the thing.
I mean,
about
I saw a
Squid
Facebook
Game.
post about it.
Well, that's what
They're
Squid
like, hey,
Game is
if
all
you
about.
like Battle Royale or you like Hunger Games, check out Squid Game. I was like, okay. And I actually fell asleep watching the first episode like 3 times before I finally made it through. And then at the end of that first episode, you start to figure out what's going on. You're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really good, and
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
It is a little baby's first extreme South Korean cinema.
Yeah.
But like, if you liked it, there's a lot of stuff. Go check out Chan-wook Park's Vengeance trilogy.
Yeah.
Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance,
Yeah,
Old Boy, and
watched.
Lady Vengeance.
I don't
Those
think
are-
I made it through all 3, but
They're really good. They're similar, more violent and more gory, but like
yeah. There's plenty of gore in Squid Game.
I wouldn't say
It's not gratuitous.
I wouldn't say it's
It's
that
not
much
like-
in comparison to some of the other stuff I've seen. It's not.
Yeah,
much. I mean, it's
well,
there, but like,
Yeah.
it's really good. It's really good. It also has a brain in its head. I know a lot of people complain about the second episode because they go back to the world and then come. It's very important that everybody in that show is there voluntarily,
Yeah.
like thematically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of the twist, really. Is
It
like
kind of is. Yeah.
it happens in the second episode of the show.
Yeah.
That everybody chooses to be there.
They're not forced there.
Yeah, which is also an indictment of other things. Like it's a good metaphor, but it's not a subtle one, but it's there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, psychologically, it's a very interesting show.
yeah, but it became the number one piece of media in the world, and it has none of the things that common wisdom or like says that you need to be the biggest thing in the world.
And I think that's good.
You're talking about something that it has done
Shake things up.
Something like a quarter of the world, a quarter of the humans on Earth have watched Squid Game.
Yeah.
Like that is ridiculous.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah,
And it happened like that.
like that. All
No marketing. I haven't seen any commercials or ads for Squid Game.
No, I only
It's just
heard
all
about
social
it.
media.
I just heard about it.
Me too.
Yeah, which is
Yep.
kind of great because that's
Yeah.
how it used to work.
The times they are changing. And then bringing again back to Swery and The Good Life, like I feel like sometimes it can be to a detriment. Like I feel like people are giving him a pass on a lot of stuff because of the word of mouth that swirls
Yeah.
about his games.
Well, that's also the things like, look, Squid Game doesn't look like it cost a ton of money, but it is a very competently and well-made show.
And well shot. For
And
the
well
most
shot.
part.
Yeah, it's all there. And there's an element of like, I bet Swery could make a Squid Game
Right.
equivalent sort of thing
Yeah.
if like
Yeah.
the jank wasn't expected.
Right.
You know, if it was
Yeah.
more of a like I bet if he could make something, you know, that really had the polish on, not something, you know, it doesn't even have to look all that different. Just have some polish on it. Just
Yeah.
if the animation of the cat looked like an actual cat,
Cat.
or something like that. Yeah. There's something that you know, I mean, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
look like God of War,
Yeah.
but like it could look like, I don't know, Animal Crossing.
Right. Yeah.
Animal Crossing doesn't look bad.
No, and it doesn't look great either.
No, but
It's a style.
It's there. It
Yeah.
gets you there. It's
Yep.
there's like little touches where like, oh, that was nice. Or like
Well, it makes you. It's funny because it sets your expectations so low
yeah.
that when there's some little thing, you're like, ooh.
Yeah, and there's little things where it's like, that T-Rex skeleton looks
so
really
funny.
good. Like
it lowers your expectations to the point where if they do something that in other games would be nothing,
right.
suddenly it's a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Yeah. So anyway, there
I
you
mean,
go.
that's what Kirby's wrote.
I don't know how we got on
forever.
Squid Game talking about the good life, but
I mean, just
that's
like,
how we roll here on GameFace.
I'd say it's because it's a weird breakout hit thing, but it's also
Yeah.
Good Life is not a breakout hit.
I mean, I feel like he, in general, is a weird breakout hit thing, though. And he's never got rich or anything.
I
But
mean, no, on a very, very
his
small
games
scale.
do
He's-
not. I don't feel like I should know his name, is what I'm getting at. But I do.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean,
Does that
like,
make sense?
It does, but like I think his name is uncommon even among people who are as into it as we are to some
Yeah.
degree. Like we keep track of that stuff. Sometimes I get him confused with Suda51, and I've met Suda51. Like that's like, you know, I like Suda51's games more than Swery's for the most part.
I tried to get Swery to do a 3-night weekend with me, and he just completely blew me off. It has nothing to do with my impressions of this game or anything. It's like, but I don't know, he didn't care. And I was like, look at some of the people that have come on the show, like, and he was just radio silence. Weird. But anyway, there you go. That's The Good Life. Neither one of us recommend you buy it. It's $30. It's too much.
$30 is way too much.
Yeah, I would maybe spend 10 for it just to play it as an oddity. But even then, I think that's a stretch. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Nintendo Switch Online again for 2 weeks in a row, because last week we talked about them announcing it and the fact that N64 and Sega Genesis games were coming to Nintendo Switch Online for, at that point, an unannounced increase in price. And then, what was it, 2 days later after we recorded the show, they announced the price. And Matt, it is going from $20 a month to $50 a month for what?
I mean,
Not a month. I'm sorry, a year.
A year.
That's
Part
very
of-
important. That's a very important distinction.
Part of it is, I think, an upsell because you're getting the Animal Crossing DLC with it, which is like, I don't care about that, so bite me. Like that, I don't know. It's bizarre. Like, I mean, I thought $10 raised for the N64, Genesis, etc. add-on would have been like what, but 30. I think you said 30. I think as
Yeah.
like almost a joke, but like,
Well, then Pactor said 40, and I thought he was insane. And it just so happened that we had recorded this like just before all this stuff, and we published the episode where he predicted the price like 3 days beforehand. If you're a subscriber, anyway. If you're not a subscriber, I think you may have got it the same day. And he had said like 40, moving to 50, and I was like, I didn't say anything to him while we were recording, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, you're insane, dude. There's no way they're going to charge that much.
well, here we are.
And
you
was
can't
right.
even pay
He was
month to
actually
month anymore.
lowballed it.
You can't even pay month to month anymore.
Oh, you can't.
No, it's
I didn't realize
it's a
that.
year. Like you're in for a year.
And then
Can you imagine if Sony did this?
I know.
150% jack up.
Yeah, Nintendo's
like,
fans are so
unbelievable.
forgiving. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And that's why this stuff happens, because Nintendo knows it can get away with
Yeah.
it. It's like they have a certain number of fanatics. To me, there's a difference between, and I know fan
A lot
is,
more than David Cage does.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
I know, fan is a truncated form of fanatic, but to me, there's a difference between fans and fanatics. And Nintendo has fanatics, and millions of them, and it knows it can do pretty much whatever it wants, and that certain segment of its audience is going to say, that's fine, and here's my money.
It's also bizarre. Like, I mean, a lot of it has to be. Like, I assume you're going to get like one big DLC for something per year off of this.
I
Because
thought,
otherwise, what is the?
Matt, here's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming you're going to get all DLC for Nintendo first-party stuff with this.
That seems unlikely.
You really think it's just going to be one piece of DLC per year?
Yeah.
See, look, I'm trying to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt here, because that makes more sense. if you spend the $50 a year and you get all the DLC for Nintendo's first-party stuff included in that price, then it starts to make a little more sense. But you're still beholden to, does Nintendo release any DLC this year, or does it not? Is it DLC for a game that I own? If it is a game that I own, do I care about the DLC? Like, I have Animal Crossing. Do I care about playing this DLC? I do not.
I think they're just gonna pick one game, and that will be the DLC pass you get for the year.
For the year.
Yeah, like maybe it would be Breath of the Wild 2
For next year.
But
That would
you're
make
gonna,
it more enticing.
But if you care
Yeah.
about it, like I didn't
Which
find
a lot of people will
some,
for that game.
But I find the Animal Crossing thing completely unenticing.
Me too. Yeah.
I would much rather just pay an extra $10 for the. But even then, it's like the N64 collection they're going to put out is never going to be any kind of definitive thing because you're never going to get GoldenEye.
Yeah.
They've already put out Mario 64 in a better form in the Mario stuff. Now I guess we know why they were going to stop selling that. Huh.
Now they have licensed some third-party stuff, which is better than none.
Yeah.
Which is more than I would expect. So they got
it's
like
also
win
like
back,
how many
but I
great
mean, how much did you pay for the win
right,
back?
and also how many great games are there on N64 today? Now, when you really sit back and think about games you'd want to play again,
I think those first
25
two
years
batches knocked out 80,
a lot.
80 to 85%.
a whole lot. And like
Yeah.
the stuff that's left that I would want to play is not stuff anyone else would want to play. Like I
Like
would love to
Mischief
play Body
Makers
Harvest.
or Body Harvest,
Or Hybrid Heaven would be
Yeah.
fun to see come back.
Yeah.
But that's all just like weird, super niche stuff that I just remember liking.
Yeah.
Like
Well, a lot of it had.
in reality, you're going to end up like with War Gods and
Right.
stuff. Like those
You also
terrible
have to
fighters.
remember, like, there's a lot of nostalgia involved with N64 games because, particularly if it was the only system that you owned, you were waiting just months for games to play.
Oh yeah,
Like, there was no third-party support on the platform.
not
So-
after the first couple of years. No.
No, so you just had to sit and wait for Nintendo's first-party
Yeah,
stuff
well,
to
that was
come
the
out.
beginning of that Nintendo tradition of just like I have the Nintendo system so that once a quarter I play the Nintendo game that comes out. That's it.
That's where it started.
And like the other problem it has, of course, is that like so many of the high level of the flagship games have better versions of them now.
Yep.
Like everything Rare put out has a better version on the Xbox.
yeah, which is why
because of the Rare
Microsoft doesn't
Replay.
give a crap about
Right.
allowing Banjo to
Banjo
be
can
in
go
this.
because Banjo has two better versions on 360 and on the Rare Replay thing.
Yep.
Jet Force Gemini is only playable. I mean, I go back to the N64 version of that. Good luck. Like
The controls are so weird.
controls are weird. It runs at like 9 frames a second. Like it's just like
Yeah.
the one on Rare Replay is a godsend if you
Yeah.
like that game, and
Yep,
I do.
which I do.
That was
Yeah.
one of my favorite Rare games of that platform. I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say Star Fox Adventures, but then I remember that got pushed to the GameCube.
Yeah.
And still runs
It was
pretty
called
well.
Dinosaur Planet on N64. And remember, that build appeared out of
I remember
nowhere
that.
like 8 months ago or something.
Yeah. You know what I'd love to see leak somehow is the N64 build of Eternal Darkness. Because I played that at E3 one
I
year.
did too.
And I'd love to see the differences on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a shell. Though.
Yeah, it was like walking around the mansion, basically.
There was like hardly
There's nothing
anything
there.
in it at that point. Yeah.
That's probably all it was.
But there's a ROM somewhere of that
Or
guaranteed.
Cameo.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, but
But there's a bunch of stuff. It's like, and there's things that I really like that I know we'll never see. Like, will we see, Beetle Adventure Racing? Probably not. 'Cause
less
you'd have to-
EA, right?
Well, you'd have to pay for the Beetle
license,
the VW license.
Volkswagen. Yeah,
Nice
Yeah.
wheels.
yeah. So it's safe to say both of us are a big pass on the expansion pack.
And then
for-
beyond that, you got the Genesis angle. I'm just like, I have every Genesis game I could ever want, both in terms of their collections they put out and the actual cartridges.
I mean, I hate
don't
to
need
say
it on the Switch.
and I do not condone, emulation and piracy at all. But let's be honest, most people have an
Sure.
emulator that has every.
But even if
single-
you don't want an emulator, you can go get the Sega Genesis collection on Steam or whatever, and it has
Right.
everything, and
Yep.
everything that you could
That
possibly
matters.
want in there and more
Yeah,
on there already. Like it's been done. It's just been done.
yeah.
You know?
And I don't like them rolling this N64 and Genesis stuff in with the DLC to get it out to that $50. It's like, okay, then you should just scale it. You should let me jump in for N64 and Genesis for an extra $10.
Yeah.
And then take that extra 20. If somebody wants the DLC for Animal Crossing, let them have at it. I don't care.
Yeah. Or you know what? At this point, I'm just like, I just bring back the Virtual Console and let me buy what I want to buy.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the answer, honestly.
Should have been, but it will never be again.
And we should also be to a point where the Virtual Console, if they establish it on Switch, would be the final one. Because that's been the problem. Like, I I've lost all that stuff. Anything that I had on the Virtual Console, where do I get it now, Matt? It's just dust in the wind, right?
Yeah.
Like, Nintendo needs to set up a Virtual Console, as you said, that will sustain. So we don't have to keep buying this stuff over and over and over again.
I had a
every time they
really
close down a
nice Virtual
storefront.
Console library on the Wii and Wii U by the end of that, like including a bunch of stuff that's still not available on on the
And
Switch.
may never be.
No, like where's Metroid Fusion?
Right. Which is a huge oversight.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. But anyway, look, end of the day, what matters the most is, can I continue to play games online on my Switch for $20 a year? I can. And I'm okay with that. I wish that they had created tiered pricing so I could spend an extra $10 to get the N64 and Genesis stuff.
And I feel like they will. I
You
feel
think?
like that. I feel eventually they will.
I feel like
have
the
to do
cat's
that.
out of the bag now.
I think they will eventually have to do that because 150% price jump on this thing. I mean, that's going to sell to the diehards or the people that desperately want the Animal Crossing DLC, I guess. But like, there's more money to be made there from people who are going to throw you an extra $10 a year, and they'll come to that later, sometime next year, I bet.
How much is the Animal Crossing DLC going to cost
I can't remember.
if you buy it separately?
I think it might be 20, 25, something like that.
Really?
I don't.
So
I haven't
why
looked
wouldn't
into
you
it.
just wait?
I don't ever intend to turn on Animal Crossing again. My town is probably just inhabited by sentient cockroaches at this point.
And everything's overgrown and blah blah blah. And I haven't played it in God, I don't even know how long. Since like 2 months after launch.
Yeah, like July last year,
Yeah.
I think.
And so I don't care.
I got all the museum fossils and I stopped. Every single Animal Crossing, that's what I've done. That I play.
Once you
I complete
complete
the
the
museum and I never turn it on again. I don't know why that is. I don't know. Once I'm done with the fossils, I just stop.
Yeah.
I did all the fossils. I built the giant Godzilla thing, and I built the giant robot fighting the Godzilla thing, and I was done.
Yeah.
That was it.
Let's go to chat and see what they're saying. Sifted says separately the AC DLC is $25. So you're saving $5.
You're spending an extra $5 to get basically.
Oh, you're right.
To get N64 games.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it depends on your perspective on whether you're saving or not. So it's $25. You're spending an extra $30. So as you say, then you would be saving $5. If you, it's to me, it's worth the $5 to wait to see if the DLC is worth buying, because that's the problem. Is you're spending the money now, you don't know if that DLC is going to be good or not. So to me, it's worth it. Like if I have to spend an extra $5 for it, to know that it's good before I spend my money. I mean, that's another angle to it all as well. Autumn Watch Sneaky, what are you doing? You posted misogynistic stuff in our chat.
What?
Manager Sony put up PS Plus. Yeah, I'll allow that.
I don't.
I don't understand why they think there's a misogynist comment there. And he just says, imagine if Sony put up PlayStation Plus at $200, but we got 10 PS1 ROMs. That would not work.
No.
I would not be happy about that.
The other problem is like that generation is even at the time I said that generation was going to age like milk.
Yeah.
And it did. Not just because of the graphics, but because like those games were all trying to figure out like how to move in 3D space. Like it was it was a very rough period of time, and most of those games are not particularly playable anymore.
No. They're not fun anymore.
No.
They don't look good anymore. They don't run well anymore. It's a tough sell. I don't know how they're rationalizing
I think
that.
I mean, to me, you're down to maybe 10 to 15 games per platform from that era that you'd want to play again today.
Yeah, I mean, PlayStation, maybe even less.
Yeah.
I mean, no, there's more because there's more games.
Because there's more volume.
But I would say the percentage is lower.
Yeah.
Like as far as what percentage of PS1 games would you still play
of
today?
The total, yeah.
I would say that number is like 20%.
And a lot of them are,
it's like 30 or
40. Like universal thing. They're not even like standard. Like Parappa still works.
Right.
Because it's basically a 2D cartoon where you play music.
Yeah, as we've said many times, the 2D stuff holds up better than the old 3D stuff, for sure.
Like Metal Gear Solid still works.
Yeah.
If you maybe upgrade it so he has eyes, you know?
His head doesn't look like a triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Sanuku says you can still buy it separate, but they made a bundle to make it more price attractive if you care to about the online stuff. I'm not sure what he's getting at there.
Well, you need the online subscription to do the island visiting and all that stuff. So Animal Crossing is probably their most successful online game right now. since Splatoon 2 is probably older than that and not doing as well.
Wampler's asking, Wampler13, do you own the DLC or is it tied to your account? That's a good question, too. Tied to your membership. So if your membership
so if you cancel your
lapses,
membership,
will you be able to play the DLC?
I think that's why it's yearly, because I think you're literally just buying the 2020 like online package or 2021 online package, and that gives you the DLC.
So you think you'll own it?
Yeah, because you can't undo that. It's not a subscription. You're just buying this year's DLC.
Yeah, because you'll have it downloaded. It'll be on your hard drive.
Yeah.
There's no way they can take that back.
And then next year you're going to have to decide whether you want to pay $50 in 2022 for online access, and because I'm sure the $20 subscription fee is still in play for online play, and then that extra $30 is basically just buying DLC plus the access to the I don't think there's a way to renege on that.
Yeah.
Like that's what you paid it. I guess
they could take away the N64 and Genesis stuff easily.
Yeah, they want to do that.
Yeah.
Like that would definitely go away if you decided not to pay next year.
Right. But
I don't
DLC
think
shouldn't.
But I don't think they would take away the Animal Crossing DLC. I think that's what you're purchasing.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they did it, but
also if you decide not to, my guess would be if you decide not to buy the 2022 pass, you would still have access to, the pass you already own would cover the N64 stuff till the end of this year.
Yeah.
Or whenever the end of their term happens to be. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Or
Yeah.
the end of your year.
Yeah.
So
Matt, is it safe to assume you're not going to plunk down your $50 for this?
no, I don't see the point.
I just had to renew my Nintendo Online subscription. I didn't even realize it had lapsed. And I just renewed it, and I was like, I could wait like a week and get, I was like, no.
Yeah, I think mine auto-renewed
I'm not going
whenever.
to.
I actually get more use out of the Super Nintendo thing.
Oh, you do?
Anything. Yeah, I mean,
I hardly ever
I play
touch
some
that
of those.
stuff.
I don't touch it that much, but I do once in a while. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been terrible the last few updates because it's just like I've never even heard of most of these games.
Yeah.
A couple of them are pretty good, but like I have no nostalgia for them because I don't know what they are.
Cheap to license.
Yeah, but like you got Zelda and Metroid in there.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
The staples were there,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's nice to have those there.
Yeah.
But like N64, I don't have that much, pull on it. Also, the problem is like, I don't have a Super Nintendo that's easy to access. I do have a N64 with an HDMI adapter that I can just plug in whenever I want, and I have a shoebox full of cartridges that I've never gotten rid of a single N64 game outside of maybe a couple wrestling games I didn't want anymore. So I can play any of that stuff whenever I want. There's no reason to pay an extra $30 for that. Like,
Yeah.
I already have it. I already have access to all that.
Yeah.
So why? Why would I bother? Especially if they're not going to improve them and they're not going to give me like the an updated version of like maybe the 3DS improvements on Majora's Mask or something. That would be something.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that. It's just going to be the standard game. I don't see the point.
Yeah,
I don't see what it gets me.
Yep.
And I don't want to play the Animal Crossing DLC because I'm done with Animal Crossing. So there's no appeal there. There's nothing for me.
I mean, also Animal Crossing DLC. It's like, what would it even be?
I mean, it's a pretty extensive thing.
Yeah, it seems like
there's
it's
a lot
big,
of stuff.
but like,
But I don't care. I mean,
I don't care. Yeah.
I got as deep into that as I did because I couldn't leave the damn house.
right.
That was
Well,
that was
I think
the
a lot
perfect
of people
lockdown
are
game.
right there with you.
But also,
Yeah.
in a similar vein to Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood, that game reminds me of that time, and I don't want to go back to that. So there's no interest in. I don't have any interest in even hearing that fucking music again.
I hear you. Totally get it. So anyway, there you go. That is the latest update on Nintendo Switch Online and its pricing. Not for me, but it might be for you, and not for Matt either. But I think if you're a hardcore Nintendo fan, you're probably going to do it no matter what. Did you get an N64 controller by any chance?
Of course not.
Yeah.
That thing sold out in 15 seconds, like I
Yeah.
said it would.
Do you think they'll make more?
Yeah, they said there's more coming in October, but you're never gonna get them. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a year or so before you can actually get one. Now, like you said
That's
before,
insane.
now you can like go on and just get the Super Nintendo one whenever you want.
Uh-huh.
But it's gonna take a while. Like you're gonna let the fanatics order
Get 'em all
order
first.
their four
That
their
they'll sell
four
on
copies.
eBay and yeah.
Or because they want 4 of them because you want to be able to play 4 players and some imaginary they think GoldenEye's gonna come one day or Perfect Dark or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause that'll last 5 minutes. Good job. You just paid $200 for controllers you use for a day.
Yeah. I mean, look, if they had increased the price $5 or $10, I probably would have paid.
Yeah,
At
$10
least for the
more I would've gone
first
for.
year until all the N64 stuff ran out.
Yeah, I would have seen how their support went for it and like what was coming and stuff, and like if they were adding more. I want to look. One of the one of the problems they do not have with the Super Nintendo service
Software.
is A, software, and B, niche stuff.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there is, I've never heard of
I mean,
half the
half
stuff
of
on that
its
thing.
catalog is
Yeah.
niche. Yeah.
But like, so there's if you do that same approach with with N64, there's a non-zero chance you are getting stuff like Body Harvest and Space Station Silicon Valley and things like that. Glover.
yeah. Character literally
Quest
just a hand.
64, Aiden Chronicles, like go nuts, just go nuts. Hybrid Heaven, Castlevania 64,
Yeah.
like there's some staples you could throw in there. Is Castlevania 64 already in there? I don't think so.
It's not
No,
because it's Konami.
it's Konami. Konami doesn't know where they are.
It,
Yeah.
it doesn't even know where that license
Little
is.
Konami
It's
bundle.
like, we get the contract for you, but we don't even know if we own Castlevania 64 anymore.
Little little Konami bundle update. You get the 2 Castlevanias and Hybrid Heaven and
You can do fun
what
stuff
else,
like that.
What else did they have? They've did they do Buck Bumble? Was that them?
No.
Who did Buck Bumble? Who remember-
THQ maybe?
Was it THQ? Maybe it might have been THQ.
It wasn't Konami. I know that for a fact, but I can't remember which publisher.
Yeah.
It may even be a publisher that's gone now. Now
There
that I
are a
think
lot of
about it.
those.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot from that era that no longer exists. There's a lot.
How about a shitty N64 fighter bundle?
Yeah.
There's plenty of that. War Gods,
Earthworm Jim,
and
64.
Clay Fighter.
That was terrible.
And Clay Fighter 63 and a third or whatever that was.
I think that's the most valuable Nintendo 64 game. The one variant of it.
Because it was only available through Blockbuster.
Right.
I have one of the. I have 2 of those. There's a lot of those that are really bad. I don't. Not
You
Clay
have the
Fighter.
Blockbuster one?
No, I have the Blockbuster edition of Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine and Beast Wars.
Those are worth money.
So,
I
yeah,
think.
they are worth money.
Yeah.
But I do not have Clay Fighter because I never liked Clay Fighter.
It wasn't good.
There was no Criticom.
Because it makes sense. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about another
Buck
indie
Bumble
game.
was Ubisoft. Wow.
Oh, it was UB. That's
Ubi
right.
Or like that's Ubisoft brings up. It's like one of the other games I would love to see hit that N64 thing. Rocket Robot on Wheels. Never gonna happen.
Yeah.
The original Sucker Punch game. I think Sucker Punch actually still owns the rights to that. As I recall.
And that was published by UB as well.
Yeah, published by UB on the same day as Rayman 2. It got buried by its own publisher by that.
Rayman 2 was great.
But I think I asked the Sucker Punch founder at E3 a few years ago when I saw him about, because that was when the rumors were swirling about an N64 class, like a mini, and I asked him if they owned Rocket Robot on Wheels or if Ubisoft did, and he said that they did, and I said that that would be a great one to put on that N64 classic thing, and he's like, That's true. That's a good. He like turned to someone and was like, write that down. Let's look into that. Like, I'm like, so maybe one day Rocket Robot on Wheels could be on that N64 service. And you know what? If they did that, I would probably give them some money for that, just for supporting that game, because that game's great.
Vincent says that the Animal Crossing DLC for Switch that you'll be paying all that money for is basically Happy Home Designer.
Yeah, there's a lot of building
AKA,
stuff and designing
no
stuff.
thanks.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people for whom that is a big draw, that they love that aspect of things, but not for me.
Yeah, no thank you on that one.
Are there new fossils? That might bring me. Give me a third level, a few more rooms to the museum. Might bring
Probably
me back
not.
in.
Not unless you can use them to decorate your house.
You can use anything to decorate your house, Shane.
That's true. You can just lay it
That's
on
what
the
we're all
floor.
here to do.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about another indie game that Matt's been playing this week. I have not played this a lick, Matt, but I will say this. There has to be some kind of lesbian homosexual theme to the game, because the trailers that I collected, they all had different shots in them, but there was one shot that was in every trailer, and it was the shot where the two hands meet.
Yes.
And so I'm guessing there's some kind of element like that.
They're
to
gay
the game.
robots, yes.
They're gay robots.
Androids.
How does
They're
that
androids.
work?
I don't know. Androids need love too.
I just...
You could ask David Cage's cult about that. It's right there for you.
Yep. The game is called Unsighted.
Yes.
And it is an isometric action RPG where cyborgs are fighting to basically keep the consciousness of robots from being wiped out. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. So this is I found out about this because some of the developers were tweeting last week about like, hey, if you don't like Metroid Dread, we made an actual Metroid game, like a Metroid Zelda game called Unsighted, and no one's paying attention to it. So I'm just like, all right, I'll take a look. So this is also on Game Pass.
Wow.
And it is very much in the vein, I would say, of like the cutscenes remind me of what am I thinking of?
There's that shot I was talking
I can't
about.
remember.
They use over and over again.
So there is a Hyper Light Drifter flavor to some of this.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
But it is very, very Zelda meets Metroid in terms of
Where's
design.
I don't get the Metroid part.
It has this. The progression is very similar to Metroid in the way you explore things, get a new ability, and then can explore new things.
Okay.
So that is also how Zelda works. But this is much more platformy.
Okay.
In terms,
even though it's isometric.
yeah, there's a lot more like actual like maneuver skill stuff necessary. Whereas like Zelda, I tend to associate with a little more automatically doing stuff. This is more like you got to do some jumping puzzle shit. Like there's the Metroid Twitch skills are being here. You see right there.
Yeah.
The Metroid Twitch skills are in play for sure. Also, there's a counter.
It's like a Melda. A Metroid crossed with Zelda.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think I just made up a term.
So you'll see like the spin attack is not quite the same. So there's a little Mega Man to it too.
Yeah.
But you'll see there's a spin move, a spin parry, which is the B button on the Xbox controller, and if you do that and something hits you, you clash and counter it, and if you do it at the perfect time, you stun them and can get a critical hit on them, and that is basically how you beat bosses without getting touched.
Oh wow.
There is a lot of there you saw that a perfect hit, and you can basically one hit kill them.
Yeah.
And there's tons of
you
upgrades.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. Like it's like I got a fighting game element to it.
I mean you're one hitting bosses though.
You don't want to hit bosses.
Oh, okay.
You just do like quadruple damage.
Oh, all right.
So you can kill them faster. And once it clicks with how some of the attacks work, because the attacks all work with like they send if you see a bright red flash or a bright red streak, that's where the attack's coming from. You can deflect projectiles back and kill enemies.
That looks like Metroid the map.
Yeah. The map is very Metroid.
Oh, show.
And so like you're basically so the premise is that you are an android and you wake up and you have amnesia because it's a video game. And but basically humans created androids. And androids run on this magic juice called anima that comes from this particular meteorite that crashed, and the meteorite that crashed gave the androids sentience. They came alive.
Okay.
And they're no longer just robots. They have consciousness and sentience. And
is there anything organic to these robots at all?
No.
Wow, they're all
machines. So humans freaked out.
This is why I can't understand the sexuality element of it. Because they're machines.
I mean, you can figure out how to do anything with anything when it comes down to it. Have you seen some of these police reports?
Touche.
And so basically the humans kind of like were like, oh shit, like we got to get out. So the humans I think went to the moon or space or something, and then they bombarded the city that had the asteroid in it, the meteorite in it, and the meteorite is where the androids were getting their anima, which is what powers them. And like the premise is you have to gather these 5 crystals to break into this tower, because the humans have put a giant tower over the meteorite, and so you can't access anymore. And so these androids are running out of the juice that makes them alive.
Oh, okay.
And once you run out of the anima, you become what's called unsighted, which means you become a mindless robot that's just attacking things.
Oh, okay.
So the enemies you're fighting are all unsighted robots, and there is
Your
a
own
weird
kind that have been transformed.
So there's a weird element where like you eventually will like
they're kind of like zombies.
Sort of, yeah. That's not wrong.
Yeah.
They're like zombie robots, and like you'll meet up with like versions of the enemies you've been fighting who are not unsighted yet, but they look just like them, and they're like, oh, it sucks that everybody's going crazy, but I'm still here. And everyone has a time meter on them, like so like everyone has like 52 hours or 300 hours, or that indicates how many hours are left before they go unsighted,
before they run out of juice.
Yeah. And you can and that's like a real-time thing, so like it's about 1 second equates to a 1 minute in the game. So and you start with I think 325 hours left.
Okay.
So you have a few hours.
You are on a race against the clock.
You're on a race against the clock, and which is a little weird in a game that encourages so much exploration.
Right. Yeah.
However, you can find bags of the meteorite dusts or something like that, and every bag adds 25 hours
Okay.
to your or you can give that to other people and extend their lives, and they will like you and do things for you. Also useful to extend the lives of the characters who you buy upgrades from.
No, right.
Because they might die before
you get all the upgrades.
They might go unsighted.
Yeah.
So there's a balance to that, and it's like a heart meter for them. They like you more if you give them things. So like you can max out relationships with them. You can rescue puppies. There are actual puppies in the game, where you rescue puppies and bring them back to this one machine that like she keeps all the pets there, and so you have puppies following around and feed them and pet them.
It sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's crafting in the game, so you find all these components, and you can craft upgrades for your weapons. You can craft new chips, which you use to upgrade the character, and you can pay currency to get yourself more chip installation space. And then you can also craft things that are called cogs or gears, which like you activate those, and those are a limited amount of time power ups. So like you get craft like an attack cog, and it means you get 20 like super powered attacks, and your next 20 attacks against enemies are like extra powerful. And then you run out of that, and the cog breaks, and you got to craft another one. And like you have one that like and then when you die, there's a little bit of Dark Souls, because there's a little bit of Dark Souls.
This game really blends everything together.
When you die, you get reset to your to the last terminal, because there's a terminal teleport, checkpoint thing through the whole thing. You teleport between terminals. And you go back to that, and you lose a percentage of your money. And if you go back to where you died without dying, you can pick up your money again.
Okay.
Now the thing is,
too bad.
now a lot of this is like early on there was like things where I'm just like, oh my god, like I'm losing so much time by dying or having to run back to where I was going, or like explore things or see what's over here, and I go. If you want, you can turn the timers on the characters off whenever you want.
Oh, okay.
So without
I don't know if I like that
penalty.
though.
So because it's like kind of it's an accessibility thing.
I mean, I get it.
Basically, it says like if you are it literally says if this is too much pressure for you, you can turn this off whenever you want. If you want to just explore and look around. And one of the difficulty modes is called Explorer mode, where they just let you where there's no timer on the characters to die.
I would prefer to not have the temptation there, because I can be weak.
Well, I haven't turned that off yet, but I probably will, because I do feel like that is anathema to the nature of an exploration.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
Like
yeah.
I don't like timers on Zelda games.
Yeah,
that's why I don't like Majora's Mask.
Me too. Yeah.
Now this is a little easier to deal with, because they give you tools to sort of counteract that with the finding, because the dust is everywhere. I mean, the dust is hard to get to because you got to puzzle solve to get to this stuff, but you do have a lot of options for that. It's not that bad.
Matt, people are asking in the chat, this or Metroid Dread?
Oh, this.
Wow.
This is much better than Metroid Dread.
Wow.
I would no question whatsoever. This is a better game than Metroid Dread.
Wow. And what if you're like looking for a Metroid game?
I mean, this makes me feel more like Metroid than Metroid Dread did in a lot of ways. I mean, not in terms of control. Obviously,
look, it looks great.
Obviously, Metroid Dread feels
that.
like Metroid in the sense that you are moving Samus around on a 2D plane
and it's got a morph ball,
but this gives me the exploration high that Metroid Dread did not.
Usually delivers. Yeah.
And the upgrades, all the upgrades are meaningful. All the every new ability you get is like, oh, that really changes how I can explore things and look around in a way that, and then you can just go around and look all over the place. That's one of the reasons I think it would be cool to turn the timer off if I need to, is because it actually does do the thing where like all of a sudden this thing opens up and I can cut through all these things. Now I can dig through this wall, and now I can see what's over here, and that opens a shortcut, but that opens up this other thing, and now I can do, like, it's that element. You're not railroaded to the next area in the way that Metroid Dread did it. Which was it's refreshing almost, and also I think it looks really nice.
Yeah, it looks great.
I really like the art style, both in the in-game and the cutscene stuff looks great. There's some really nice like shadowing they do on the characters in the cutscenes that it really looks cool. I love that when you go to the menu screen, everything you equip on Alma is the name of the character you play. Everything you equip on Alma is visible, and
it shows up on the character.
It's on her, and she plays with it.
That's rare for 2D games.
Really cool. Like it's really well done. And yes, as you said, there's a lot of gay stuff in it. It's a lot of gay robots, lesbian robots.
Yeah.
I have no problem with lesbian robots.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's an interesting concept.
If you're sensitive to the whole diversity thing, you're probably not going to like this game, because there's a lot of that happening.
You really think that it'll bother people that much if they're not into it?
If you're a dick, yeah. It's going to bother you if you're an asshole.
Okay.
Like there's non-binary robots. I don't know if that should shock anyone that some robots don't have genders, but they don't. So.
That's funny. How much is this, Matt?
I don't know. I got it on Game Pass.
Right. It's on PC.
Also, there's multiplayer.
Xbox, PS4, and Switch.
There's also multiplayer.
Multiplayer?
Yeah.
How does that work?
You'll see it in the trailer. There's just multiple characters on screen.
So it's not co-op?
It is co-op.
It is
but
co-op.
but you can pick her. She has friends. You know, she's the other characters can come in and help her. There are warriors that help her.
And have you tried that?
I have not.
Is that online or local only?
I don't know. There's a multiplayer on or off switch, and I'm not sure if that's local.
Okay.
I feel like it would work very well local.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have not tried that.
Well, sometimes action games locally cooperatively are tough because it's hard to decide what the camera does. A lot of times that's why you see games that have like a tether between the two characters.
$20.
$20?
Yeah.
Is that fair to you?
More than fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Like this is I'm glad this thing has been kind of discovered by people complaining that it
about Metroid.
that no one's paying attention to it while everybody talks about Metroid, because this should be talked about more than Metroid. This is a better game than Metroid Dread, without any question.
I saw something funny happened this week.
Once you get like some of the once you figure out how this, like the first main boss is like this arachnid thing, this arachnid robot thing, and I died to it a couple times, and then like suddenly like how the parrying worked with it just clicked, and like I killed it in like 20 seconds without being touched.
Wow.
And it was like it was the same kind of thing as when I beat the horse-mounted samurai boss in Sekiro without being touched the first time I saw him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like it was like there's just this moment where it feels like almost like you're playing billiards with this thing. And
everything snaps into
place. It all snapped into place. I was like, oh, I get it. I get it now. Yeah. And it's great because up to then I understood what I was doing, but it didn't sing yet. And it did on that first boss fight. And then I was like, oh, I'm in. This is the game I played the most this week.
Oh, wow. Sure. I was on, I think it was Facebook, because I'm old, and old people are the only ones who still use Facebook at this point. And I think it was from an official Video Game Awards post that Keeley or his team had posted, and someone had gone in there and written this diatribe about how Metroid Dread was Game of the Year, and that everybody knows it, and that there's no other game that could come close, and that there was some kind of a conspiracy going on between Jeff and PlayStation and Xbox to take turns giving the Game of the Year to PlayStation, then to Xbox, then to PlayStation. And, dude, I've never seen someone get blown out on social media so much in my life. Like... The people just went back. It's so easy. They're just like, okay, they just went and looked at all the game, and it was total bullcrap. But this Nintendo fanboy is so incensed by Metroid Dread that he went on there and just spouted all this nonsense and like made a fool out of himself in public.
Like he didn't like Metroid Dread, or
no, he loved it.
Okay.
He said that it's like everybody knows it's Game of the Year, and if you disagree with me, you're biased or whatever. And and then he went on this tirade about, oh, you'll never give it to Nintendo, and then people reminded him that they have given the Game of the Year to Nintendo before.
Like the first Game Awards did give it to Nintendo.
Yeah, and then they were also
like Reggie was there to accept it after announcing a bunch of things.
I just think it's really funny how, for whatever reason,
just
Nintendo
desperately
fans have really
want to be a
latched on to that game. It's really weird, but anyway.
Well, what else are they going to latch onto this year?
This game.
Well, yeah, but this is not made by Nintendo.
Right. I'm just saying, like, in your opinion, this game is superior to Metroid Dread.
Absolutely.
But people like that would never give this game a chance over a game like Metroid Dread, purely because of the IP. That's what I was getting at.
Some of that,
Yeah.
Or because it's not Nintendo, or because, I don't know, it doesn't hate gay people enough. Like, there's a whole subculture
smorgasbord, yes, of reasons, but that aren't really reasons. So anyway, there you go. That's Unsighted.
I mean, they're shitty reasons, but I guess they are reasons.
Yeah. Again, it's available for PC, Xbox, PS4, Switch,
everything.
It's for everything. $20, and it's on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass, yeah.
Yep. So
and it's great.
It looks awesome. I probably will go play it. Well, maybe. We'll see. This week's gonna be tough.
It's not easy. Like, you're gonna have to adjust to some stuff, but it's not like punishing like Dark Souls. Yeah. There is a stamina bar.
No.
It's not that bad. It's not too bad.
Okay.
I mean, you can't just attack forever.
Okay. I'll still check it out though. I'll definitely give it a go. But I'm like I said,
and you can use your chips to upgrade stamina, so you get more and more stamina. So you don't have to. So eventually you'll be able to kill anything before you run out of stamina.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm on Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm gone this weekend, so I probably have to dedicate all my playtime before I leave to that. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's Unsighted. Matt recommends it, and you should check it out. It's free on Game Pass, so there's no risk if you're a subscriber. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about Avowed, because we finally got some information about Avowed.
Also on Game Pass.
It will also be on Game Pass eventually. You're right. This whole show, other than Switch Online, is Game Pass. That's pretty amazing. Think about that.
Yeah.
An entire episode of GameFace has Game Pass almost for every topic.
Yeah, except I guess not Elden Ring. But.
Yeah. Well, that was just an aside.
Maybe.
That wasn't an official topic, Matt. Actually, wow.
Who knows?
That would rock the Casbah
Yeah.
if they got an exclusive on that game for even a limited time on Game Pass. Mm-hmm. We'll see. But we're going to talk to you about Avowed, which is well, I don't know if it even matters anymore to call these games exclusives. It is a Microsoft published game, which means it will be on Game Pass day and date on release, and for both Xbox and for PC. It is a brand new RPG franchise from Obsidian, which that team is legendary for creating great action RPGs across the years.
But J.M. Rain, what did he say? J.M. Rain asked what the name of the last game was?
Yeah, the last game was Unsighted.
Unsighted.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll make sure people know that was what that was. Because...
Yep. So anyway, we're talking about Avowed, which will eventually be kind of an exclusive, I guess, for Xbox and PC, if it even matters anymore with Game Pass, because Game Pass works on pretty much everything, every device, or it will in the not too distant future. This game was announced with a trailer a long time ago, and I'll just play it right now so you guys can check it out in case you don't remember it. This trailer makes it look like Skyrim, and we have some information. Look, I want to credit the person who released this information because it's a pretty big deal that they got it. This comes from Jez Corden from Windows Central. And Windows Central just kind of plots along, and then once every 3 or 4 months, it gets a huge Xbox exclusive out of nowhere. And this person, Jez, has stated that he saw tons of materials related to Avowed. He saw gameplay footage. He saw internal development docs. He saw a bunch of screenshots, and he used all this information to put together his report. And Matt, the first thing I did not realize at all is that this game is set in the Pillars of Eternity universe.
Yeah, I've said that multiple times.
I do not remember you ever saying that.
Yeah, I've said that every time we talk about this.
Really?
You just don't remember it for some reason.
I guess,
probably
yeah.
because the Pillars of Eternity universe is not particularly memorable. In a lot of
Yeah.
it. It's pretty standard fantasy stuff. There's some cool stuff in it, but you'd have to have played the games pretty heavily to have gotten involved in it.
Yeah. Well, it's it literally is like Pillars of Eternity, the action RPG.
Yeah.
Because it has the same bestiary from Pillars of Eternity. It has the same setting as Pillars of Eternity. It basically is just okay, Pillars of Eternity
it's Obsidian's fantasy setting.
Yeah.
That's basically what they're going to do from now on when they do fantasy games. Is going to be set
in this
that
universe.
World.
Yeah, which is smart. I mean, that's essentially what Bethesda does with Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, and it's not like anybody gives a shit about Elder Scrolls' setting that much.
No, it doesn't really matter.
Most people don't even know it's called Elder Scrolls. So.
Yeah, they just know Skyrim or Oblivion or
and
whatever.
they're going to know Avowed. They're not going to know Pillars of Eternity.
You're right. Well, it's not even in the subtitle in this case.
Yeah.
Or not even in the main title. As you might have guessed by watching this trailer, it is a first-person view. It is an action RPG. Some of the new information that came out in this report from Jez Corden is that it uses the Outer Worlds engine. How do you feel about that?
I mean, obviously we don't know what that's going to be like until we see it.
It could have mutated.
Yeah, but I mean, I liked how Outer Worlds looked, and I actually have gone back to that a few times when the new DLC would come out, and I really like Outer Worlds.
I like it too. I don't know that I like the look of it that much, though.
I do like the look of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like
Not
weird
bad.
alien worlds and stuff. Like we'll have to see how they do kind of update it for modern, the new consoles.
Yeah.
New console, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, I was really happy with what Outer Worlds looked like. So yeah, I'm okay with it. My big question is can you make a good melee combat system out of that engine? We haven't really seen. I mean, there were melee weapons in Outer Worlds, but I don't think we've seen anything on the level of what it would need to be a Skyrim killer. Not that Skyrim has amazing melee combat, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything could be an improvement over Skyrim. Mm-hmm. But also like Skyrim, there is two-handed combat in this. which provides a bunch of different options and opportunities. You can even use, if you want to cast like the really potent spells, you have to use two-handed spell casting.
Right, just like Skyrim.
Yep. I mean, it basically rips the whole concept.
Yeah,
from
I mean, it's
Skyrim.
basically like they were making a Skyrim killer before Microsoft bought Bethesda,
And now they're like, let's
it's
finish
Oh,
it.
I guess we'll just do this. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Avowed. I mean, I would be very interested in a Skyrim type game set in Pillars of Eternity. Like there's a lot of potential in that universe from that perspective. I think that'd be an interesting thing to do.
Yep. It has deep RPG exploration and narrative elements. Again, very much like Skyrim.
Bullet point.
Yep.
Bullet point.
Multiple class play styles.
Oh.
And as we said,
How
two-handed
unusual.
combat, just like Skyrim.
Wow.
Even the spells and all the other stuff, also from Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah.
So they're bringing over all that stuff. There are weapon enchantments, the Pillar-style guns, like muskets. If you remember, Pillars of Eternity actually has guns in it, which I've kind of forgotten.
Well, yeah, especially Deadfire. Like that was it was a pirate game.
Yep.
So a lot of muskets. Like Clock Punk.
And then they said that the attacks are bound to specific buttons on the controller. So you basically assign each attack to a face button on the controller. That's how you fire those off. They said it's also very colorful, like the Outer Worlds. That the color palette of the game, they said, don't be fooled by the initial trailer that you saw for Avowed, because it's not dark and gray like that. That it's actually very vivid and very, very colorful.
Which makes sense, especially if you're using the Outer Worlds engine.
Yeah.
That engine did a really good job of that.
Yep. That's when I think of that game. That's the first thing I
Yeah.
think of is a million colors. Absolutely. It's not drab and dark and gray and brown and all that. There's swimming, which is something that's not in Skyrim.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Is there?
You can swim in Skyrim. I mean, it's not fun, but you can swim.
Why do I not remember swimming in that game?
Because there's nothing to do underwater.
There's no reason to go in
You
the
can go
water.
underwater and find like passageways into places locked sometimes, or
Oh.
like swim across little rivers, swim across like if you go in the cold water, you get hurt.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Okay. I remember it now. Destructible environments are in Avowed.
That's different.
That is definitely different. The big question left open.
But will it remain destroyed becomes the question.
Right.
Like, will that building still be destroyed if you come back 40 hours later, or will it miss?
It should be. I mean,
Unless there's very ambitious construction crews.
as long as they didn't hire Peter Molyneux on the team. And then the big X factor that nobody knows still, and even Jez Corden from Windows Central doesn't know this after all the materials that they looked at, no one knows yet if it's an open world game or if it's like the Outer Worlds where it's like the hub style of design.
Right. I mean, I guess that depends on what that engine can handle.
If I remember correctly, I thought the job listings for this were for an open world game.
I mean, if you're going to make a Skyrim killer, you're probably going to want an open world.
Yeah.
And I would think that Outer Worlds 2 will also be more open world. I mean,
I would
obviously it
think
wouldn't be
so.
all one open world because you have to go to different planets, but I would imagine that, there will be much bigger areas.
I didn't mind the way the Outer Worlds was designed because
I
I
thought
think
that
it
makes
worked
sense.
with the way the game was designed narratively.
Yeah, it did. And I don't need giant open planet area. I mean, Outer Worlds pretty much uses the same strategy as Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like, it gives you really nice exploration area moments of these like weird planets, and then takes you to a new one.
Yeah.
And I mean, my big wish for Outer Worlds 2 isn't bigger areas; it's more area. I want more planets. I want to see more crazy.
That
weird
game in
places.
general was small for Obsidian.
Yeah, it felt proof of concept-y. It's although the DLC adds a lot of meat to it. I mean, like with the DLC, 2 DLC packs in place, I think it's a pretty good sized game.
Now, Windows Central is saying that this game is in like pre-alpha, and it's almost to the point where it's like feature complete, and they can start really kind of tweaking it and sanding down all the rough edges and figuring out what works and what doesn't work.
It feels like we might be seeing an early 2023 on this thing.
Well, they also said that they think that it may be at the Game Awards this year
That'd be good to see it.
to show the first in-engine stuff.
Because you don't really need this next year because you got Starfield coming.
I mean,
So-
Microsoft doesn't really quote unquote need anything.
Yeah.
Like again, honestly, because we get to next year, that's when all these deals that Microsoft has signed are going to start coming to fruition. Next year might be the last year where they would need something.
Yeah.
After that,
I think
they
this-
should be golden.
I just think this is too maybe it's not because it's fantasy. Maybe you could put this out in September and Starfield out in November, but it feels too soon.
Yeah.
It feels like if you're hitting pre-alpha now and you're feature complete, you're going to debut at the Game Awards. It feels like March 2023.
That seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Are you more or less excited for this game now that we have some more details on it? Finally.
I mean, nothing you've said.
Is it what you expected?
It was exactly what I was already expecting, pretty much. But I'm very excited about it. I do want to play this game a lot. I'm always interested in another take on the Skyrim formula because love them or hate them, Bethesda's the only ones doing these games.
Yeah. And Obsidian.
Obsidian does their own version now. Because, a lot of people there's obviously crossover there. They've made Fallout, New Vegas, and stuff. And I like Obsidian's take on this kind of subgenre. I like their spin on these things and certainly their narrative twist on stuff. I really liked Outer Worlds, and I would like to see them tackle a Skyrim alike. Just to see what they make out of it, because they generally do Bethesda's deal, but
almost better than Bethesda.
Yeah,
I hate to admit it, but
no disrespect to Bethesda,
but
it's
not at all.
Like
Bethesda just takes too long to make its games.
Yeah,
because Obsidian will make 2 or 3 games in the span between each Bethesda release.
And the thing with Obsidian is, they are generally kind of making games that are, I guess you consider them Me Too, because they are building a sort of off the Bethesda template a lot of the time, but they never make one without a good idea. You always play an Obsidian kind of game like Outer Worlds or New Vegas or whatever, and you're like, oh, I totally see why you made this, why this game was pitched, why you said we have a reason to make a Fallout or an Outer Worlds style game, because Outer Worlds is very Fallout-y. It's got a lot of Fallout in its DNA.
Yeah, it's got a little Mass Effect tossed in there.
There's even a little Skyrim in places. And but you see why they wanted to make it. It's not just this sells so we can make our own. It's always like they have an idea, they have a angle on it, they have a story to tell, they have characters to show us. Like I always like Obsidian's spin on
or
things.
A world to suck you into.
Yeah,
they're pretty good at world building. That was what impressed me the most with the Outer Worlds.
Yeah. And that's also what's interesting to me about Avowed, because I have played both Pillars of Eternity games, and I do like them, and I think the world is interesting but kind of unrealized in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Deadfire does a better job of it. Although it's telling that when people play Deadfire, they tend to be like, I had no idea this kind of stuff would have happened in this world. Yeah, because the first game's world is so generically D&D, outside of the reincarnation sort of reading people's past lives things, that there's no real reason to differentiate it from what, say, a Baldur's Gate had.
Yeah.
Deadfire really does a good job of making it its own thing, and turning that into a more accessible 3D action game is going to be a good move, I think.
I think the big X factor for Avowed is, are they going to be able to nail the first-person combat?
Yeah.
It's obviously the guns and the bows, they're going to be fine. But how does the first-person melee work?
Yeah. And
that's something that's not easy to get right.
No. And they and look, Obsidian has dropped the ball on combat in the past.
Yes, it has.
Even when they didn't drop the ball on anything, because
Outer Worlds combat wasn't great.
Outer Worlds is not amazing. I mean, when I say
serviceable, but
when I say bad Obsidian combat, I am mostly thinking about Alpha Protocol.
Yeah, well,
which is a phenomenal game narratively.
It is. Yeah.
I don't know if I've played another game that changes the story more drastically based on your choices.
It's a
really,
cult classic.
To the point that if you get to the end of the game and then go to the rest of the game, go play it again and purposely make the opposite choices you made the first time, you will have a completely different end of the game. It's unrecognizably different.
Yeah.
The problem is the gunplay is awful. It's not fun to play Alpha Protocol. You endure Alpha Protocol to see the branching narrative idea done better than it maybe has ever been done anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I hope they can bring some of that to this.
Yeah. I'm excited for this game.
Have combat that doesn't make me go ugh.
I mean, this is pretty high up my list of games that I'm jacked up for. Avowed, it's probably top 5, top 10.
And I can't wait to see all the people going Avowed. What's that?
Why would they say that?
Because people don't know the word avowed.
Oh, weird. Life is weird. So your guess is...
Do you have any idea how many times somebody says thesaurus and somebody thinks they're talking about a dinosaur?
One would be too many. So you're thinking early 2023?
I think Q1 2023 might be.
I wouldn't be surprised if it makes it out end of year next year, if it's already in alpha.
It might.
But these games, there's a lot of bugs to squash.
Oh yeah, well, especially Obsidian. I think you gotta.
Yeah.
I think you gotta make a really good impression.
Let them spend
Yeah,
2 years
for sure.
doing that.
Let's
After Fallout New Vegas.
Let's let the Microsoft dev community sort of like help out with like figuring some of these things out.
That pays dividends.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Absolutely.
And I also do think Obsidian does have the reputation for putting out the buggy stuff, especially when it comes to these like kind of Bethesda-alike things.
I mean, look at Fallout New Vegas. It was
Sure.
a disaster at launch.
Still is to some degree, especially if
Yeah.
you're trying to play the 360 version backwards compatible on the Xbox One.
Is it
me,
broken?
Ask me how I know. It's like it still crashes a lot.
Yeah.
It's just all.
The Outer Worlds, though, wasn't like that.
Outer Worlds is solid, but also
it was also not an open world game.
no,
and-
but it's also some, lower profile
And
this
smaller.
This is their biggest most ambitious release in a very long time, and the first big ambitious release under the Microsoft ownership. So you want to put your best foot forward on this. So I think give them the time they need to make this thing really come out of the gate polished, because you're already going to be suffering from the PR disaster of how bad Starfield's going to be at launch, because we all know that's going to happen.
I would hope not.
I hope not, because Starfield is my most wanted game next year, probably after maybe Horizon. But
I mean, they have been working on it for a really
have,
long time.
But we've all been to Bethesda launches before, right?
It's true. Yeah.
There's no time like the present to do it upright and change.
I'm
the
hoping they're
pattern.
turning over a new leaf with their new owners.
Oh yeah, well after Fallout 76, I would hope they would,
They
would
better.
realize like, oh,
They can't do that
We better
again.
stick this landing.
definitely can't do that again.
But yeah.
Yep. Let's see what people
Again,
in chat
no
are
battle plan survives contact with the enemy.
saying.
It's one thing to QA test with 1,000 people; it's another to put it in the hands of millions of players.
Sanuku is saying, what the hell are those guys on? The game is in pre-production. Okay, you can't say stuff like this and call people out without citing where you're getting the information from. So, if you're going to slag somebody and say that their information is incorrect after they shared where they got their information from, you need to share where you got your information from. And he says, what the hell are those guys on? The game is in pre-production. What playable build? Did someone spike their drinks? And then Nox Atronitis says, yeah, there is no playable build. Who are you guys?
Well, he's saying like read Jez's article. It says it's not playable yet and it's nearing the end of pre-production.
No, I just read the article this morning again for like the third time. It says it's in pre-alpha and about to be feature complete. Anyway. What else do people say about this? It's just these same two guys saying that we're idiots, basically. Article says it's pre-alpha, so it's pretty deep in production. Yeah. Okay.
Deep in pre-production, it says. Or he says.
That's not what the article says, though. The article says it's right on the fringe of it being a playable build.
Yeah, Veritas says, the article says it's in pre-alpha.
Yeah. Yeah, which is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I said it was in pre-alpha. So, why do people do this, Matt? Why do people go into chat and be like, I know more than you do, and I'm going to show you that I know more than you do? I don't get it. Where do they get out of it? Anyway, yeah, late next year is probably a stretch. And to Matt's point, I agree. It's better if they give it time, because we're going to have no shortage of games to play. That's for sure.
Vincent quotes the article, says, sources familiar with internal plans have reached out to us in recent months offering details on Avowed, moving through pre-production towards a playable alpha state. Indeed, Obsidian is likely close to having a working early version of the game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. So, whatever. All right, let's move on. Last topic of episode 275, and you guys probably guessed what it was or what it was going to be, and we're going to talk about DC FanDome. Last year at DC FanDome, we got the announcement of two big Batman, Gotham, Arkham projects. I don't know what phrase you use to quantify those two games into one.
I mean, they're Batman games.
Yeah,
that don't have Batman in them.
pretty much. Yeah, neither one does. In fact, the first game we're going to talk about, which is Gotham Knights, the whole concept of the game is that Batman is gone. And Gotham has been left in this state of disrepair, and you're this group of young upstarts who need to come in and lay down the law in Gotham. And
Well, you're the Bat family.
yeah, the Bat family. And one thing I would say about that is we got a huge chunk of gameplay when they debuted that a year ago, and we have seen nothing about it since. But for FanDome 2021, we got the first story trailer, and This is important because I don't think a lot of people know what the Court of Owls is, which is the crux of the story in this game. I'm still not 100% certain what the Court of Owls is. I know it's like this shadow organization in Gotham, but I can't figure out if they're like good guys or bad guys.
They're bad guys. They're a secret, super secret underground organization that's existed for basically as long as Gotham has, that are secretly pulling all the strings. And they're like the secret elders of Gotham, sort of think of it like that. So
they say in this trailer, they're like, I didn't even believe that they existed or whatever.
Right. So kind of think of it as like, it's almost like it's a bit of kind of an explanation stab at like, why does Gotham never get any better, even with everything that Batman does? And it's because the Court of Owls is really manipulating everything. It's why Gotham's so weird.
Why do they want Gotham to fail?
To enrich themselves.
Okay.
It's all, it's an oligarchy thing. If I remember right.
Weird.
Not weird. It's how the world works. Like there's a bunch of rich aristocratic people running everything and siphoning off all the money to
but
have
if the
power.
city goes under, there's nothing to siphon
The city's
from.
not going under because they're still making money.
Okay. All right. And how do the Court of Owls fit into this whole plot?
So I guess your group here, the
band of
the former Robins and
Team
Batgirl,
Batman.
Bat Family, they're going to essentially accidentally uncover the Court of Owls while looking for Batman, presumably because Batman has gone undercover to infiltrate the Court of Owls. Because Batman, I don't think is supposed to be dead in this.
There's a couple shots in the trailer that lead me to believe he's not
Not what?
dead.
Yeah, no, I don't think he is supposed to be dead in this.
He's not
He's
supposed
missing.
to be?
He's missing.
Oh, okay.
He's not there, but I don't think he's supposed to be. I mean, they might think he's dead. I don't know, but I don't think he's dead.
Okay.
This is not a sequel to Arkham.
Right.
Suicide Squad is.
Suicide Squad is, yeah, as people have discovered, kind of sorting through. We'll get to Suicide Squad, but yeah, there's some more obvious hints in that versus in Gotham Knights about.
Yeah, Gotham Knights is its own standalone thing, pretty much.
And it's a cooperative game.
Yeah, which I think is probably a branch off of, because the Court of Owls made a lot of sense as the next step for the Arkham games, but then they just sort of stopped making them. Because this would also technically work as a follow-up to Arkham Knight, the premise that Batman's gone and his proteges have to sort of like solve the problem.
Right.
But instead, I guess they just made it its own standalone game.
I mean, I'll just be honest. I do not find the Court of Owls interesting as an enemy.
The Court of Owls is one of the best Batman stories ever told. It
I
may or
totally
may not
believe
it
that.
may or may not translate as a decent enemy of. I mean, think of it. The way they're treating it in this feels like it's going to be pretty much the League of Assassins.
Yeah.
Just you're kind of like fighting a shadow organization. It's sort of like Ra's al Ghul's things.
Yeah. I prefer like the bad guy.
Well, there will
instead
be
of
that
the bad
too.
guys.
There
plural.
will be that too. I mean, there's a leader of the Court of Owls.
And is he awesome? And
He's
or is he
bad.
just some dude? Like,
he's very important.
yeah. See, as someone who doesn't really give a crap about Batman or Batman's lore, and like that doesn't
Well, I'm not going to
resonate with me.
I'm not going to tell you the end of Court of Owls because some people may have not read it yet. All I will say, it is one of the best Batman stories ever told, and you will not be let down by what the revelation of what the Court of Owls and who the guy running them are. Assuming they adapt it well,
accurately.
Who knows what they're doing here?
Right.
Like, it could be. It looks on target, but who knows?
Yeah.
And as the villains for an entire video game, I don't know, but like also like we see other villains, and there's tons of villains in Gotham that can be
play bit parts.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean Arkham did that too. I mean the bad guys in Arkham Knight were technically the Arkham Knight and his paramilitary guys, but you fought a bunch of other things during that. Arkham City, you were fighting the Joker, but you went after Mr. Freeze and the Penguin and all. There's a whole rogues gallery to deal with, and I'm not really worried about that.
So far from this game, the least interesting thing
Arkham
to me,
Knight
though,
turned 10, or Arkham City turned 10 yesterday. By the way.
Wow. Okay. Just from what I've seen of this game so far, the least interesting thing to me is the Court of Owls.
I mean, I don't know. Like, they're not like visually exciting characters.
Yeah.
Visually exciting enemies, really.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a very good story.
Okay. Well, hopefully they can adapt it well and accurately. so it stays true to what Matt's talking
Well,
about.
I don't know. I mean, not having Bruce be the center of the story means they're adapting it differently.
Right. So
But-
he was the center of the story in the comic.
Yeah, Batman is definitely the protagonist of the Court of Owls
Which
story.
lends credence to maybe he does appear eventually.
I would be very surprised if they don't accidentally. My guess is just in terms of how these things go, is that it's going to be a thing where their investigations blow his cover. That he's infiltrating the Court of Owls to figure out what's going on, and that's why he disappeared. And he had to make it look like he was dead.
Right.
But then they accidentally force him to break cover, and like now they just got to take.
And
these
now
guys
he's on their side and blah blah.
Right,
blah.
like that's
Yeah.
what I guess. Or maybe it might do an Indiana Jones Temple of Doom thing where he's been brainwashed or something, and you have to snap him out of it, so you got to fight Batman. Ooh. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
Could be stuff like that. Would be kind of directions I could think they would take it.
Are you excited for this game?
Eh,
Yeah.
Like, I'm not as-
kind of right there with you.
like I think it depends how hard it's going to be to play it solo,
Yeah.
because I'm not interested in a co-op thing.
Well, you'll have me, and we can just find two other people. Or wait, is it 3?
I don't remember.
I think it is only 3.
Is it 3?
Yeah. We can find one other person.
I don't have any interest in playing a co-op Batman game.
You want to play Batman with me, Matt?
I don't want to play Batman with anybody.
Why? You hate me.
It's not interesting to me.
It's definitely a different take.
I mean, I would rather just have another Arkham game.
Yeah.
As much as I disliked Arkham
You hated
Knight.
the last one.
Yeah, but you could just do Arkham City again. That's all I need.
Yeah, now Rocksteady obviously has moved on to something else, which was also shown at DC FanDome.
Yeah, but the people who made this also, Origins wasn't my favorite, but it was better than Arkham Knight.
Yeah. I didn't mind Arkham Knight. I liked it, actually.
I played it again. I did a couple years ago. I did a whole replay through of all the Arkham games. I despise Arkham Knight.
Oh, I'm well aware.
Like that's probably the biggest disappointment of last generation to me. Like,
Wow.
Just a terrible, terrible series of decisions.
Wow. I agree with you that it's probably not the best of that series, but I still thought it was good. I still enjoyed playing it.
Yeah, I hated it. I do think it's better with all the DLC in place because there's actual Batman villains in it now.
Yeah,
But it's like, especially in comparison to City, which I think a very strong case can be made for City or Asylum being the best of the Arkham games, one way or the other. Although ironically, I think that Origins, which I think has the worst combat, has the best story,
I'd probably agree with that.
or at least the best written story. I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went back through all 4 of them, and I still like Knight the least, and I like Origin a lot more than I did the first time, in part because at least it wasn't Knight.
Okay, so you do not like Arkham Knight, which was
No.
made by Rocksteady.
Yep.
And now Rocksteady is working on
Suicide
Squad, Kill the Justice League. And let me just take it right back there, because the people wondered where this was set. And there you go.
Yep, it's Arkham.
It is set in Arkham.
In
Everyone was like,
Gotham, rather.
yeah, and everybody was like up in arms wondering where it's set. As it turns out, they are returning to a familiar setting. Does that make you more excited?
No. I
No?
don't care. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with this, and it also sounds like another thing I'm going to have to team up with other players to do, which I don't care about. I don't care about Suicide Squad stuff.
Like, it's just as an IP in general?
No, the James Gunn movie I like well enough.
It was okay.
I like Harley Quinn, but
It was better than the one prior, I'll say that. Like, by a lot.
I've had dentist appointments that are better than that one. But it's just not as interesting. I've never. This isn't about the game or the modern. It's like I've never found the Suicide Squad thing to be particularly compelling.
Yeah. This is the first in-engine footage, by the way, of this game.
Yeah.
Before the prior trailer we had was all CG. This is what the game actually looks like. I saw a lot of people on Sifted were all pissed off about like not seeing gameplay, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
It's an engine.
It's
kinda.
just cut really fast. There are definitely some shots of some action in here, and it's definitely an engine without a doubt. And this is also, I should mention, next gen only.
Yeah.
PS5, Xbox Series X, PC. No, none of this straddling generations crap. Do you think can you see it in the graphics?
I think I can see it in the lighting.
Yeah.
There's environmental details that are definitely above and beyond what last gen can do.
I mean, this game has been in development for a long time, and I'm wondering if that may play into.
I mean,
it a
all the
little bit.
effects there with like the flashes, lightning, and Green Lanterns, like all that. There's a lot of stuff going on there. It's maybe not the flashiest thing in the world. Flash, get it? But like that's like I see a lot of lighting stuff and sort of like that couldn't have been done, and some of the fabric stuff like what's his name's coat, Captain Boomerang's coat. Like, that looks really good.
Yeah.
One of the things that annoyed me about that leaked Elden Ring footage, it's 2021, and it's time to stop letting swords clip through capes. Like, stop it.
It is for last gen, though. I don't want to like give developers a pass. Like, I feel like I'm getting to this point where
Yeah, but you know what? Like, the remaster of
excuses for people.
Arkham City minimized his, because his scallops on his arm used to clip through the cape. They got rid of that for the most part when they redid that.
Yeah,
it looks really good now, and doesn't really do that in Arkham Knight either.
Yep.
So you can make it work, or if you can't make it work, don't put the sword there. Like, there's ways around that. Anyway, I think there's a lot of stuff here that says next gen to some degree, but again, a lot of that stuff. Penguin's in all of this stuff apparently, because he's also in the new Matt Reeves Batman movie, so Penguin's going to be a big deal for a while.
It's funny how that all trickles down.
Yeah, synergy is important.
They're like, we got to remind people about the Penguin so that when he's in the movie that people are excited about it.
I mean, it happens a lot. For years now, She-Hulk has been they changed her. She was huge and big and huge and muscly and
like Hulk,
like Hulk, and she was she couldn't talk very much. Although you could saw her internal monologue was still a very smart lawyer person.
Yeah.
But she's got a new series coming out, and she's going to go back to her old classic self, like kind of a 9-foot tall green woman in a suit doing lawyer stuff, because that is what she's going to be in the Disney Plus
film.
show.
Yeah.
In the Disney Plus show. So you gotta synergize.
Yeah, it makes sense, I guess. Anything that stood out in that trailer for you, Matt?
Not really. I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I do sympathize with sort of the negative responses to the trailer in the sense that we still don't really know what we're doing.
Yeah.
There's in-game stuff. There's probably in-gameplay shots in this trailer, but
Did you mention a minute ago it's cooperative?
I thought it was cooperative. Is that
really?
Not
I don't know.
I mean, if you're gonna make a Suicide Squad game and not make it cooperative,
I honestly don't know if it is or it isn't. I just thought maybe you had heard something about it.
I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense that it would be because they are kind of a team. But
I don't know.
I think most people would probably want to play with Harley Quinn, though.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
I think this is one of those teams where there are some members that are far more desirable than others.
Sort of. I mean,
like Justice League, I like all of them, but
sort of. But I think it depends on what you want your gameplay style to be. Like, if I feel like you would be more of a Deadshot person.
Yeah.
You want to just punch stuff. You're King Shark. You want to.
Or eat stuff.
I don't actually know what the point of Captain Boomerang would be. But
I don't either. He's the smart one.
Kind of.
I don't know.
Support, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, I don't even know.
I mean, Harley's the smartest person on the team.
Yeah. She's the mastermind. And the plot of this, I mean, for what we know of it so far, is it's the typical Suicide Squad plot where they have the bombs in their heads.
I guess Boomerang's the gadget character.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of.
He's
tricks.
the engineer, I guess.
Yeah, he's the engineer. That makes sense.
And I guess the basic plot is like the other Suicide Squad stuff. They have brains or bombs implanted in their brain, and if they don't do what they're told, their heads explode, and so they have to go fight the Justice League. The Justice League's minds have been overtaken by
Brainiac,
right?
Yeah,
and that's why they look all insane with like their eyes.
Yeah, I mean, having to take out the Justice League and it's cool, but it's like, again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense where it's like, okay, so Superman's gone rogue, so you're going to send a woman with a bat after him. Like, that's not really going to... None of these people are a solution to Green Lantern going crazy.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
But I mean, that's sort of an inherent problem with the Suicide Squad, like, premise.
It is, yeah.
Although in the comics, a lot of times they're just carrying out what would essentially be wet works missions.
Yeah.
In the movie, in the original movie, the terrible first movie, like the excuse for the setup of them is like, well, Superman might go rogue at any moment. I'm like, none of the people in this team are going to be able to stop that.
Right.
Like, that is not a thing.
I mean, Superman just kind of breaks everything, right?
Yeah.
Because he's so powerful, it's like no one can really mess with him.
Right.
So,
I mean, if he was really gone, like where under Brainiac's control and like murdering people, he could kill all 5 of those people before you could blink.
Right, by snapping his fingers. Yeah.
Yeah. He
literally by
moves
snapping his fingers.
So could Flash. Flash can hit you 100 times before you can think.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
None of these guys. That's why they're scary.
Yeah.
That's why
you
don't want
taken over.
That's why you don't want to think about it too much, and why they make a really big effort in the comics to make you believe that Superman and Green Lantern and Flash are really good people at heart, who would never do anything like that.
Right.
and why Batman is the one who gets to be broody and dark and kind of over-violent at times because he's just a guy.
Yep. What is that character's name?
Where?
The black woman?
Amanda Waller.
Amanda Waller, that's right. Yeah. And
Dr. Amanda
she has a
Waller.
history.
Yeah, Amanda Waller's a great character.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate that they keep making her thinner.
Yeah.
But like,
I'm sure she is
like
like
Amanda
blaming
Waller
the
doesn't
actress.
need to be. Yeah, it's strange, but like Amanda Waller's great. Like she's one of the all-time great comic characters.
So Matt, which of these two games are you more excited for? Gotham Knights or Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League? It's a tough one.
Flip a coin, I guess. The premise of Suicide Squad is more interesting to me, like assassinating the Justice League. Just seeing Rocksteady's take on the Justice League characters will be interesting in that regard. As far as who I'd want to play as, I'm more interested in playing as Nightwing or Batgirl, the characters in Gotham Knights. But neither of them really like ping. Neither of them really pins the needle.
Chat, what say you? Which of these two games are you more excited for? Gotham Knights or Suicide Squad: Kill Justice League? I think it's Suicide Squad because, one, you said the concept is better with trying to take out the Justice League, but it's also because it's Rocksteady. And I know you didn't like Gotham Knight. I did. I didn't think it was as good as the prior couple games, but I still thought it was really good. And I do think that Rocksteady is really talented.
They are. And like Arkham Knight is technically solid, or was after the PC version got fixed. I don't think that Arkham
Also being next gen only, that makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't care about that really, but Arkham Knight, I don't care that like to me Arkham Knight is not that like they made a bad game technically. It's that I disagree with every creative choice they made about that game.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with whether they can make a good Suicide Squad game.
All right, let's take a look at what chat's saying. Sanuku, I still believe that Suicide Squad could still find its niche, but I don't expect it to be big enough to see a sequel. On the other hand, the Al Batman game can still become something special, even with the cringe team part. Okay, that's fair.
I would be a little surprised if Suicide Squad wasn't a bigger hit than Gotham Knights. Suicide Squad is the only DC live-action movie in the last 10 years to make any kind of impact on the cultural zeitgeist. Harley Quinn has become a regular Halloween costume because of Suicide Squad. No, people can't even remember anything else that happened in that movie except that Harley Quinn looked cool.
Yep.
So I think Suicide Squad has the bigger hit potential of the two of these.
Okay.
Also because it's Rocksteady, and let's be honest, it's probably going to be a better game.
Yep. It seems like most people agree with us. Vincent also clarified a couple things. Suicide Squad can be played solo or in 4-player online co-op.
Right, but we'll see if the solo, much like Back 4 Blood and Left 4 Dead, let's see if the solo is any good.
And then Gotham Knights is only 2-player co-op. I knew it was a weird number, but I thought it was 3 instead of 2.
That's interesting.
Let's see. Nox Atronitis, probably Gotham. People up here saying I was wrong. I don't get that. We just read the quote directly from the article, and people are still saying I gave incorrect
I mean, if they're moving
information.
towards pre-alpha, they are certainly not in alpha.
Yeah, I said they're almost in alpha. That's exactly what I said. Anyway, doesn't matter.
I guess it depends how long it takes them to move through alpha. I don't know how long it usually takes Obsidian to do that.
Yep. Sneaky. I'll replay Arkham Asylum again. JM Rain.
I mean, that's probably the smarter move. Yeah.
JM Rain. Let's see. He says... JM Rain... Where did he go? Oh, says Suicide Squad. Minority Game says Gotham Knights. Nox United says I have no attachment with Suicide Squad. Me either. Mellowak. Suicide Squad by a mile. Erebus Jones, they've taken so long to get these done. I'm struggling to find enthusiasm for either.
I mean, that's a point too.
Yeah. What else? Axel F 1986 Suicide Squad. The Big Smoke 82 Suicide Squad. If the graphics look like this, they will. And I think that's it. So it sounds like most people are.
I think just having. I mean, Suicide Squad did well. Like if people recognize that, it's basically the James Gunn team here, the lineup.
Yeah.
I think. I have no doubts that Suicide Squad will be more recognized. Not that people don't like Batgirl and Nightwing and all that stuff, but like there's just Harley Quinn is just more high profile than just about anybody in the Bat world except Batman himself at this point.
Yeah, it's true.
And the Joker.
Yeah. So anyway, that was all the game stuff that happened at DC FanDome. But however, there was a ton of film, television, comics. I mean, that was a big event.
Yeah.
I mean, they
blew it out.
They really did. And we're not, obviously we're a gaming podcast, so we're not going to talk about this stuff crazy in depth, but I do want to get Matt's takes on a couple things because I value his opinion on stuff like this a lot, and I'm sure you guys do too. The Batman launching on March 4th, 2022. How you feeling about that?
I mean, I have some confidence in Matt Reeves. Like he does good work. I'll definitely see it.
I liked the new trailer.
I thought the trailer was bleh. I
liked it.
It looked pretty. It looked very like it was trying very hard to be dark and gritty. And I got a weird feeling of like, are you showing me all the best things in the movie in this trailer?
Why is his costume? Why does it actually look like he made it now? Like they show his costume like a couple close-ups, and you can see like the stitching on like the nose piece. You can see where it's like sewn on.
Oh well, some
like
of that,
his boots are like just boots with like jeans on.
Some of that is because part of this takes place when he's early on.
Okay.
So, but then like later when he's walking down the hallway and they're just shooting him and the bullets are bouncing off him, I think that's a different outfit.
That's an awesome shot, by the way.
Yeah,
I love that shot.
It looked like Darth Vader walking down the hallway in Rogue One.
But it's got the strobes from the guns.
Yeah,
like,
I mean visually,
I thought it was pretty
visually
clever.
looks not. Yeah, I don't see anything new in this Batman wise.
I don't
I
either,
don't see anything in this that shows me something I haven't already seen. You know, like it's nice that you're kind of backtracking on the Affleck Batman thing. Not that I thought he was a bad Batman. For
Robert
what he was
Pattinson is now
Pat Bat. Yeah,
He seems fine.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
He didn't stand out or anything.
No, I mean, and the Riddler looks, an interesting take on the Riddler. It could be a revelatory thing, maybe. Like, so, but really, the interesting stuff is going to come out of the villains on this. Like, and I guess you've sort of reverted Batman back to sort of where we were with Batman Begins. Like, it reminded me of Batman Begins visually.
Yeah,
in a
I
lot
got
of
that
places.
vibe too.
Which is not a bad thing, but it just sort of feels like review. Like, I understand you kind of got to go back to the drawing board in a couple ways for this character because of what's been done to the DC movies in the interim by Zack Snyder and the other hopeless people they've had driving this ship directly into the wall. But and the other stuff is going to do the same thing. Like, a lot of this is course correction. I do think it's weird that they're going to have 3 live-action Batmans next year.
That is odd.
You're going to have Pattinson in this movie. You're going to have Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck in the Flash movie, playing different versions of Batman.
A little weird.
Now, the Flash, reason for that in part is because the Flash is doing a giant a giant course correction for the DC extended universe that's basically going to erase the Zack Snyder movies from continuity. Which, great, awesome. Like, too bad you couldn't have done that ahead of time and realized not to let him do those stupid, terrible movies. But, like, in the end of that, I think you're going to end up with Michael Keaton as the Batman in the DC movies. And there are already rumors that he is going to be Batman in the Batgirl movie.
Wow.
So you're basically going to kind of do Batman as an older character in these movies.
Interesting.
Probably also why they had Michael Keaton narrating the Flash trailer.
Yep.
Interesting. Also amazing to me that Titans is getting a season 4. Like, I guess that show must cost nothing to produce.
I mean, I didn't even include all this stuff in here. Like, there were so many TV shows coming. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Every over-the-top service has...
Well, and DC is all over.
At least one.
You've got the HBO Max stuff with DC. You've got the movies. Now you've got a Batman series that is going to be separate from the other movies. You've got the CW shows, which have actually done probably the most justice to the DC concepts of anyone. That all turned out way better than any of it had any right to. And they've actually done the crossover stuff better than the movies have. With the Legion stuff and even like the Doom Patrol, like
it's
Doom Patrol
I
is
didn't
a great
even know
show.
some of these shows. I was aware of the shows and didn't even know that they were like DC properties.
How about the fact that Pennyworth is on a season 3? I didn't even know that show was on.
It's crazy. There's so much. Injustice, the game, is getting an animated series, right?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah, I mean, it depends how much they're drawing from the comics. The Injustice comics are some of the best DC stories told in the last 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
Like, they let, I can't remember the name of the guy who writes those, but they
it's an animated film, not an animated series.
Right, but they basically let him loose, because like none of it matters, right? Like the only thing that had to happen was because at first the first comics were a prequel leading up to the events of Injustice, the first game, and then after that he wrote like the interim, but that covered the time between Injustice and Injustice 2, and his only guideline was as long as everybody who needs to be alive is alive and the situation is the way it is when Injustice happens, do whatever you want.
Oh.
And it's great.
Huh.
Like it actually has some of the best character development for Harley Quinn in anything ever. Like her transition from being the Joker's sidekick to being basically a hero in that comic series is fantastic.
Huh.
Like, and Green Arrow and Black Canary help her through a lot of that, and it's great. And they reference some of it in Injustice 2. Like, clearly the NetherRealm guys liked what was done in the comics too, because it incorporates some of that.
Yeah.
So if they can capture some of that and translate some of those moments to this animated movie, fantastic. That'd be great. It'd be a great companion piece to the games.
Okay. Black Adam, starring The Rock, is coming out July 29th of next year. What the hell is Black Adam? I don't even know what it is.
Black Adam is a Shazam, Captain Marvel bad guy.
Oh.
So Black Adam, you'll notice he is basically Shazam in a dark outfit. He's an old character. Like this,
I've never heard of him before.
He popped up in a lot of the Infinite Crisis stuff and Countdown stuff as a more major villain, like in recent, last 15 years or so. But he was in like one or two old Captain Marvel stories and then disappeared until more recently and came back as sort of an anti-hero villain character. He's from ancient Egypt, and he is given the same powers as Shazam, as Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Shazam, the character we know as Shazam now, is called Captain Marvel for almost a century, which is why I have trouble just calling him Shazam. But
wasn't there a Shazam TV show in the 80s?
Yeah. It was a live action and a cartoon.
Didn't he like live in an RV or something? If I remember
he traveled. He kind of did the Scooby-Doo thing, kind of traveling around. Yeah, and it was a whole Marvel family. It was like him and Captain Marvel Jr. and Mary Marvel, and it was a whole thing. He was he was in the 40s. He was the most popular superhero in the world.
Wow.
Captain Marvel's books in the 40s outsold Superman.
Wow.
That was a character my dad grew up reading. He loves Shazam.
So you're saying I'm stupid for not knowing who Black Adam is?
No, Black Adam was a fairly obscure character until fairly recently if you were reading comics. So Black Adam was given the same powers as Shazam was, but in ancient Egypt, and he kind of became a ruler because of it and got punished by Shazam for misusing the powers, and woke up in modern day and fought Captain Marvel / Shazam. Shazam being the wizard who gave the powers out. Also the name that Captain Marvel says to become Captain Marvel, also the name of Captain Marvel himself now. So presumably he only transforms back and forth when he says Shazam if he really means it. It's copyright. It's a copyright thing. Because Captain Marvel is also Carol Danvers in from Marvel Comics.
Right.
So you can't call two characters Captain Marvel. So Shazam is his name now. And so he had to fight Black Adam, and Black Adam in the modern comics became the ruler of a Middle Eastern country whose name I can't remember, called Kandak or something like that. And basically he's sort of a dictator, but he's also has the best interest of his people in mind, but he's also kind of a jerk. Basically he'll kill people. Like, he's a murderer, and but he's also sort of an anti-hero. It's like he has a weird sort of code of honor. So, like, the heroes don't think of him as, like, evil, like Lex Luthor evil, but he's also, like, you got to watch him.
Okay.
So he's kind of got an anti-hero thing going on. It would be very interesting to see how The Rock handles that, because
it's weird to see Dwayne play that role.
He's a very he can be a charismatic character, but he is a very stoic, standoffish asshole. He is probably the closest Marvel equivalent I'd say would be Namor. Like, he's the Imperious Rex thing. Like, he's a very haughty, condescending jerk much of the time.
Seems out of place for...
It's not The Rock's usual thing, but of course, Shazam is usually not like a giant goofball like what he was in the movie. To the point that one of the weirdest things about the first Shazam movie is that
I couldn't watch the whole thing.
I thought it was very boring.
Yeah, I couldn't make it. I made it like an hour in. And
the thing that I thought was really weird was that when Zach Levi becomes Shazam, Zach Levi is behaving as a 13-year-old, but he is not behaving as the 13-year-old character we've seen the other actor play. Like, Billy Batson, the 13-year-old character we've seen for the rest of the movie, isn't like that.
Yeah.
Like, he's actually kind of overly serious for a 13-year-old.
Yeah, you're right.
Because he's been through a bunch of shit.
flip-flop, yeah.
And, like, all of a sudden, he's like, oh, we're going to go buy a beer, and I'm going to zap people in the butt and stuff like that. Is not the character. Like, it's like they never talk to each other or something. He became like a generic, so that's sort of like a weird disconnect there. So who knows what Black Adam, as played by The Rock, will be, or if The Rock. But although again, The Rock
Do they expect it to be a big film?
Yes, I mean every superhero movie made by Warner Brothers or Marvel is expected to be a major billion-dollar hit. If
That seems like a big stretch, man.
It is, but I mean,
I don't know what Black Adam is.
Do you know what the Guardians of the Galaxy are? Because no one knew what that was before that movie came out.
I was vaguely aware of them, but you're right. Your point is made.
The Eternals.
I mean, we talked about that last week, that nobody knows who they are.
And the Eternals have the biggest ticket pre-sales of any movie this year.
That's mind-boggling.
Never underestimate Marvel.
I guess not.
So if people can if they can turn Guardians of the Galaxy and Eternals into household names, and it looks like they're about to do that with Eternals, just like they did with Guardians of the Galaxy, the fact that everybody knows who Rocket Raccoon is now is mind-boggling.
Or the fact
to
that
me.
I am right now playing a Guardians of the Galaxy
major
video
AAA game. They can turn Black Adam into that if they make something good. And The Rock has the charisma to pull it off. And The Rock has played heels in his wrestling.
Yeah, he was a wrestling.
Time. So he can do it.
Wrestler.
I mean, Black Adam. The modern interpretation of Black Adam is not super different from when The Rock was a jerk.
Yeah.
You remember when The Rock was a big arrogant asshole?
I always thought he was.
He could absolutely
that was
put
the
that persona back on, and that would be Black Adam.
Just raise the eyebrow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure he will. Totally will.
Of course he will. That's what he gets paid for.
I just want to see him in the little elf ears. Usually Black Adam has pointy ears.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. That's December 16th of next year.
Right.
Jason Momoa's back.
Up against Avatar 2 right now.
I did not
Someone's going to blink on that one. There's no way that you go up against Avatar.
I did not think the last Aquaman movie was terrible. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible.
Much like Venom, it's a bad movie, but my eyes weren't bored.
Yeah.
Like, Aquaman is dumb. But
it really is. It's a
but
dumb
like
superhero.
that movie showed me a bunch of stuff I have never seen before.
Yeah.
Guys on sharks with lances, and Julie Andrews is a kaiju at the bottom of the sea. Like I'm not complaining about Aquaman. I had a pretty good time in Aquaman.
Yeah. And those are kind of the biggest projects. And as I said, there's just tons of TV
Shazam
shows.
2.
Yeah, and there's the Peacemaker for HBO, the Blue Beetle. I mean, you can just go on.
Blue Beetle's
on.
interesting. That's a good version of that character to use.
Yeah. So overall, though, pretty impressive FanDome.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
I mean, I don't really like DC all that much, but I came out of that event being like, oh, okay, hot damn. You guys are making it happen.
I mean, they're not letting
We'll see if any of it's good.
Right,
but...
exactly. But I got to give them credit for
They're trying.
They don't slow down.
Yeah.
Like, they're not backing off. So
yeah, they get knocked down a lot, but they do seem to keep getting back up, so...
Ain't nothing going to keep them down.
So anyway, there you go. That's DC FanDome 2021. And now it's time for Name That Game. It's it's a game that we play at the end of every episode of GameFace, where I give you a set of clues and you try to guess the name of the game. The twist is that you're playing against Matt. And so you need to guess the name of the game before Matt does. Matt, you won the first week, right? Was it the first one or the second?
No, the second
one. And then the viewers won the next 3 weeks, and then you won last week. And your performance last week was amazing. And if you're new to this, you may be wondering, like, well, that's not fair because Matt's sitting there and there's a delay on the stream. You guys win all ties and then some. So if Matt announces the name of the game, I look over at the chat and I give you guys a few seconds to answer. Last week, I think somebody tried to, like, pull a fast one and like type in the name of the game after you said it, and I still gave it to Matt. So I feel like I have a decent sixth sense on who actually wins these things. If you win, you get a 6-pack of Sifted stickers, and we will ship them anywhere in the world. Does not matter where you live. Everyone's eligible. And if you do beat Matt today at Name That Game, I'll let you guys know how to reach me to give me your shipping address, and off we go. So as I said, I have a handful of clues, and they're more ambiguous at first, and they become more obvious at the end. So by the time we get to the end, I hope at least that I'm providing clues that guarantee that someone's going to get it. And my goal is to make the game last until that last clue. I do my best every week. Sometimes I do okay. Sometimes I do terrible. We'll see how I do this week. So let's see. Here we are. We're ready for Name That Game. First clue.
Well, you're going to want to catch the chat up.
Yep. I'll put the chat up, and I'll get to the bottom of chat as well because, yeah, man, people had a lot of comments about all that DC stuff. Yeah, lots of comments. I'm glad they fired your woman from Aquaman 2. You know what that means.
Did they?
Look, people are already guessing
fire
games.
Amber Heard?
Look, they're already guessing games. Advent Rising, Commander Keen.
Advent Rising's a good companion piece to Too Human. Yeah.
Yeah, last week Matt got Too Human on one clue. That was probably the most impressive outing for Name That Game yet. All right, you guys ready?
Darkness was a longer shot, I thought.
No, that's actually a good point. Yeah, that was pretty good too. Yep. All right, here we go, guys. The first clue. This RPG is like a dream. This RPG is like a dream. Darmus, thank you for Twitch Prime.
I mean, my instant thought is El Shaddai.
Not El Shaddai.
That's not a dream. That's weird biblical crap.
Nope. Eternal Sonata, no.
That's a good one, though. That's a good guess.
2 people guessed it. Eternal Sonata, no.
Because it is a dream.
Yep.
Well, it's a hallucination as somebody's dying.
Nope. Eternal Darkness is not really an RPG,
No.
so that's not right. Blue Dragon, no. Look, a bunch of people guessed the Sonata Chopin game. Yeah, it's not, though. A bunch of people did. Ni no Kuni, no. Folklore PS3, no. Lost Odyssey, no. No, everyone's guessing Eternal Sonata.
People
Interesting.
love Eternal Sonata.
That's
I mean, it's a solid
crazy.
guess.
Yeah. Mario and Luigi Dream Team. No, but that's a good guess, too. My guess is that person typed in RPG Dream, and that's how they got that answer. Lesteved, thanks for gifting the Tier 1 subs, man. That's awesome. Final Fantasy 8, no. Final Fantasy 10, no. Heavy Rain, no. Heavy Rain's not an RPG. Tales of Symphonia, no. Persona 4, no. Okay, we're going on to the next clue. Icarus has nothing on this game's cast. Icarus has nothing on this game's cast. Catherine, no. Link's Awakening, no. To the Moon, no. Any guesses, Matt? First 2 clues. This RPG is like a dream. Second clue, Icarus has nothing on this game's cast. Chrono Trigger, no. Owlboy, no.
Owlboy's a good guess.
Yep.
Legendary Wings is not an RPG, so that's the only thing that made me think of it.
Okay, let's move on. Phoenix Rising, no. Pandora's Tower, no. Golden Sun, no. Chrono Cross, no. Oh,
Pandora's
Les
Tower.
Devitt got it.
Skies of Arcadia?
Skies of Arcadia. Good job. Yep. That's it. You win, Les Devitt. It was Skies of Arcadia. Do you start getting the clues now? No.
I mean, I get the second one because
this
all
RPG
fly
is like a
around.
dream. It was for a Dreamcast RPG.
Okay.
The first clue, I hope you guys never get it from that. The second one, Icarus has nothing on this game's cast.
And then the cast
Those are
is the dream.
skies. And then I'll read the rest of the clues. No matter your vice, you'll find something to like. The lead character's name was Vice.
Yeah.
The fourth clue was it's a pirate's life for you.
Yeah.
And they are sky pirates. And then the last clue was Sega just closed one in Akihabara, an arcade. So
Yeah.
I think no matter what, somebody was going to get it. But we only made it to the second clue, and he got it. Les Deved. Good job, bro. Congratulations. If you guys want to ask us any questions for Q&A, we're going to do that right now. So if you can get him in while I kind of message to Les Deved what he needs to do. You can either DM us here on Twitch, on our Twitch channel. You can send me a DM on Twitter. I am at Dinfire. You can send us a message on Patreon, or you can go to the Sifted site, sifted.net, and you can send me a private message at Shane. Any of those will work. Make sure you include your real name, your real full name, and your full address. Make sure you include all of it. The zip code, the country code if you need it, the province if it's a part of it. Make sure you include everything. And we will be sure to get those stickers out to you ASAP. Congratulations once again, Les Deved. I'm happy to see that you won because you're on our stream every week It's great to give back to the people who are supporting us week in and week out by showing up and doing the show with us. Nightwing says, guess it wasn't 50 Cent blood in the sand. Congratulations again, Les Devid. We just hit level 3 of the hype train. Thanks to everybody who's given us bits. And JM Rain just gifted a bunch of subs. Thank you for that. You guys are awesome. All right, let's get to a few questions. Gino Mike, a risque question. Have you seen Dave Chappelle's new Netflix special? Thoughts? I have not. Have
I
you?
have not. I have no interest in him.
You don't like Chappelle?
I like the Chappelle show from 20 years ago or whatever.
You don't like his stand-up?
Not when he decides to rip on trans people, no.
No.
He can go fuck himself.
I don't even know what's up with that whole thing.
He declares himself a TERF.
What is a TERF?
TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, which basically means that they don't believe that trans women are women. And they don't get to be part of the feminist movement.
Does he really call himself that, or is that what you're calling him?
I mean, he says it as kind of a joke. He's like, I'm on Team TERF. is basically what
oh,
he says.
so he actually uses that term.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
And in the end, it's supposed to be sort of a thing where he's like making fun of everybody because he jokes about everybody, but it's like there's a difference between punching up and punching down, and he punches down a lot, and I'm not really a fan of that. So I can understand why people are not pleased with him.
Okay. I had no idea what was going on. I knew there was some kind of a dust-up, but I had no clue of any of the details about it. So, okay. Let's go to some more questions.
He has a really bad track record with LGBT stuff.
Okay.
Always has.
Sneaky, not a question but feedback. Don't know if I'm in the minority, but I love these slow weeks and the mad tangents you guys go down. It's fun hearing old stories. Okay. I do wonder sometimes if people get sick of us telling old stories. Because a lot of people who may be potential viewers of the show weren't even alive when a lot of this stuff happened to us. It's kind of funny. But we are who we are, and we went through these things, and I think it's okay to share those stories every once in a while. Minority Games, what do you think of Watch Dogs Legion now? I just started, and it seems fun with the DLC. I mean, I thought it was fun beforehand. We didn't hate the game.
But I did load it up a couple weeks ago to try to decide whether to delete it or not, and I just couldn't quite figure out what I was doing anymore. It was one of those things where like it's been so long since I played it, I couldn't remember what to do. And I played a little bit, and I was like, I'm kind of done.
We liked the game when it came out.
Yeah,
the problem was
it
it came out when there was all this other stuff to play, and it just kind of got overshadowed. That game should have probably
right as the new systems came out, and
it was just poor timing for it, unfortunately.
It looks real nice on the Series X.
I booted it up just to see what it looked like, and it wow.
After playing like 30 hours of it on the old 1X.
Yep.
Loading on the Series X,
it's
was
a
like,
step
whoa!
up.
It was
me too. Yeah, my eyes. I was like, oh, okay.
Like, oh, that's a difference. Certainly more than Valhalla was.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah. Way more.
Because Legion has the ray tracing. So.
That explains it. Yep, makes a big difference. So we weren't hating on the game when it came out. It just came out in a really crowded time, and we just didn't.
Yeah, I don't think it's amazing. That's all.
Yeah,
it's just it's fine.
It's good. Yep. Let's see.
It does have kind of I guess, it feels like the concept of Watch Dogs should be a better game than all three of them have been.
I'd agree with that.
That's sort of the frustration with Watch Dogs.
I was more excited for the franchise before I ever played the first one than I ever ended up getting enjoyment out of the series still, this day.
There's just a constant sort of like, maybe this time with Watch. Maybe, I guess I have a hard time believing they're ever going to make another one of them. So.
You think they won't make another one, ever?
I mean, they gave it 3 shots.
They've put a lot of money into that IP, man.
Yeah.
Whew. That's a tough
They even
tough one.
They even tied it into the Assassin's Creed universe.
They did. In a desperate last-ditch effort to save it, I think. Okay, let's get to some more questions. Ashes in the Hourglass. Why do you think they haven't made a Batman Beyond film yet? That's a better question for you.
I mean, that's a pretty good question. I think the answer is mostly that Batman Beyond is too new. The answer is pretty much that someone who grew up with Batman Beyond needs to be progressed in Warner Brothers studio hierarchy to the point that they are one of the people making the green light decisions.
Okay.
So sort of like what happened with the Raimi Spider-Mans. Like, we got a good Spider-Man movie finally. Someone finally made a Spider-Man movie, and it was a good Spider-Man movie for its time because Sam Raimi grew up reading Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. That was what was required. Yeah. Like, you need someone to be... why is the Marvel Cinematic Universe doing so well? Because Kevin Feige grew up reading all these comics and cares about them and loves them and is taking care of that IP properly. Yeah. Like, that's what needs to happen, is someone someone who knows this stuff and loves this stuff and knows why everyone else loves it needs to be in place and saying, hey, Batman Beyond is a viable property and we should make something out of it. I think it's more likely that Rocksteady gets a Batman Beyond game out before we get a Batman Beyond movie, but who knows?
Okay. Let's go back. A couple more questions.
That cartoon series still holds up, by the way. All the old DC animated stuff holds up.
Just got some more emotes. I don't know how to make this stupid. Okay. I couldn't figure out how to make it go away earlier. The emotes that pop up on the right. Here's a good one. The Big Smoke 82. I'm picking up a game tomorrow. Either Metroid Dread on Switch or Crisis Trilogy on Series X. What do you guys think? I mean, I'm going Dread in that case.
Crisis Trilogy.
It's tough. It's a
close
call.
I have been playing the Crisis remasters a little bit.
Because 2 and 3 just came out, right?
2 and 3 just came out. And the 2 and 3 remasters are much better jobs than
the first one?
Than the first one was. The first one seems like it's been cleaned. It runs a little better. I mean, it was on Series X, so the problem was it runs like crap on the previous gen systems, so I don't know if that's been fixed or not in the new release, or if they patched anything. But 2 and 3 run real well. And I like 2 quite a bit. I always like 2 the best, and I'm pretty pleased with it. It's hard to compare that to
That's
Metroid.
a tough one, yeah. That's a really tough one.
Although Metroid, I think, is more expensive.
It probably is more
Metroid's
expensive.
$10 more than the Crisis Trilogy. I don't know.
I'd probably go Dread.
I'd probably go Crisis.
Yeah.
If you like Crisis.
I mean, it shows you, though. We're split down the middle. It's a tough choice for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
To me, it's like I also played those
Also
Crisis games so long ago that...
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still pretty fun. Like, I still enjoy Crisis 2 quite a bit.
Because it is kind of a superhero game.
Yeah, you're using the powers of the suit and super speed and super strength and jump and everything. I mean, it's cool. They get better as they go, usually. I think 2 and 3 are better than 1, for sure. 1 has a lot of rough edges and sort of a product of its time, certainly in terms of how it directs you to places.
It's funny that it's still used as a graphical benchmark.
Yeah,
all these years later.
It's also weird playing, especially the first one, playing that again, because the temptation is to play it like Far Cry, and they keep talking about using the cloak and stuff, but you're not really supposed to stealth your way through that game. You're supposed to use the cloak to get in close so you can pop out and blow everybody away, and use the armor to keep yourself alive long enough to finish the firefight. It's just a very different way of playing a shooter that doesn't really exist anymore.
It takes a while. I remember playing them back when they came out. It took a while for it to click.
Yeah,
too.
it definitely, and it did again this time. But after it did, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember the sprinting across things at super speed. Like this, it's cool. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, and also it's nice to see that the remasters on 2 and 3 came out better because the I can't remember the name of the company, but I know that that's the same company doing the next gen update for Witcher 3. Oh. Which got rated today.
Really?
So it must be coming pretty soon.
Wow.
Looking forward to that.
That game will look amazing. Okay, let's see what's next. Mitchell is alive, Microsoft, and he spells it with the $sign. Okay, that when I see that, what's the first word that comes to mind when you see the MS with the $sign?
Fanboy.
Yep, I hate to tell you, Mitchell.
Or Sony with a $sign for the S.
Right. That's funny.
And I guess Nintendo with a cent sign for the E? I don't know.
I'm just being honest. When I see that, the first thing I think is fanboy. MS is still rumored to have one more big developer/publisher purchase. What do you think it might be versus what would you think it should be?
I mean, I guess there's a Crystal Dynamics rumors flying around, but I don't know.
That's not a bad purchase.
I don't know if that has any basis in fact, though. That might just be talk.
I mean, now that Blue Point's gone, there aren't many left that aren't already a part of some other publisher.
Yeah, I don't. I guess
like Rocksteady. That would be a great purchase, probably.
Rocksteady, I guess, yeah, or so, Warner Brothers seems to be willing to let some of its things go. I saw NetherRealm mentioned at some point. I don't even know if that would be on the table.
NetherRealm, though, there's such a. I mean, they're great, and look,
they only do one thing, though.
Yeah, they do one thing, and Rocksteady kind of only does one thing, but I feel like they have the ability to do more.
Yeah,
I honestly do not know if NetherRealm could make anything but a fighting game.
Well, the other question about Rocksteady is like once you remove the DC license from Rocksteady, what you got?
What do you got?
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing I would think is like I don't know if they're major publishers, but I would if I were Microsoft, I'd be looking at some of these up and coming studios out of South Korea.
Yeah,
like some of those those devs over there are doing incredible work. That like you're looking at these things, and you're like, where did that come from? It's like, well, because we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
And if you suck up a couple of the really good ones over there, and have them churning out like AAA stuff for you over the next decade, like you could have the next Skyrim on your hands. You don't know. Like that's where a lot of really good talent's going to be coming from the next 10 to 15 years. That's where I would be focusing, but that's not obviously a major developer. The question is talking about like picking up someone that's like a household name to gamers, and I that's not.
There's not a lot of them left.
It's a hard call. It would be a surprise. I think whoever it would probably be a surprise because you might be taking them away from another company that's selling them off or something.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of independent big names left.
Nope, they've all been
Certainly
snatched
not.
up.
Certainly not now that Bethesda's been purchased. So.
Yeah, I mean, From Software's still out there. That's
that would be a big deal.
Yep.
God, there'd be people
But they
would
never
be
would.
mad about that.
Yes, they would.
Furious.
Yeah, people would be like, "Well, I guess I have to buy
You
that."
gotta buy an
platform."
Xbox now.
Yeah, no choice. Oh, Listeved. I didn't know this was his screen name. Listeved is actually coming into the studio for an episode of GameFace here in the near future. He asked me for the dates, and I gave them to him. I think he's still trying to figure out when he's going to be in Los Angeles. Sorry, Steve, I didn't realize that was your screen name here in Twitch. So, awesome that he won, because he basically pledged a ton of money to us to be able to come on the show. We appreciate it very much. So you'll get to see him in person, sitting next to Matt in the not-too-distant future, once we figure out the date. Cinetike says, for me, I was born in 84. I love the old stories. Okay. Feel free to tell us if you hate stuff. Like, we're not going to be offended. At this point, I don't know what it would take for me to be offended, Matt. I've been through the ringer in this industry so many times. Like, I don't even know what it would take to offend me at this point. Let's see. Are there any more? Minority Games, are you excited for Shin Megami Tensei 5? Are you excited for it, Matt?
I don't think I can be excited for Shin Megami Tensei. To me, it's the mainline series is just so long and deep, and like it's having to play it feels like a chore now.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll say this: I'm ready for another one of those games. It's been 3 years since I played Persona 5.
I'm ready to play another 10 hours of Shin Megami Tensei because I have to. Let's put it that way.
It'll be a lot more than 10 hours. I guarantee that.
Well, I'm not saying I'm going to finish it, but I feel
But you're
like
gonna spend 10
after 10 hours, I think I'm going to know one way or the other whether I like it or not.
That's
We'll see
funny.
if I go any further.
I would not say I'm excited for it, no, but I am ready for it.
I am mentally prepared for Shin
commitment.
Megami Tensei 5.
It's a commitment. And it's like after Persona 5, like I was good for 3 years. I had no interest in playing games like that. But
I mean, at least Shin Megami Tensei 5 is going to be more of a straightforward dungeon crawl.
That's true.
A lot less teen drama and,
Yeah.
and high school's time management and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
it's a much more straightforward game.
It is, for sure. But yeah, we'll be playing that pretty soon. Mitchell is alive. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. We appreciate it. He asked, what's the story of the Yoshi egg? There really isn't a story. Nintendo sent it to me.
Well, the two Yoshis love each other very much. One swallows the other, and then an egg comes out.
Nintendo sent me some game in it. Like the top half comes off, and you can hide stuff in it if you want to. And Nintendo sent me some Yoshi game years ago, and it had like the cart inside the egg. Anyway, that's if there is a story, that's all there is. Is there any more? Jam Rain 99, playing any scary games in October to celebrate Halloween? I don't have any plans specifically.
No.
If something comes along, I will.
I'll probably play the Fatal Frame Maiden of Black Water remaster
not a bad
re-release,
call.
whatever you call it. That's out like right before Halloween.
Yeah, there's no real big high-profile horror games coming out for
No.
Halloween this year. There's a couple indie things that are releasing around Halloween-ish. And I think there's some DLC for, like, Dead by Daylight, I think.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight has some new stuff coming out.
Stuff like that. But there's no big new horror game release.
I mean, the big horror game currently is a game most of us haven't even played called Phasmophobia.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the big streaming horror phenomenon.
Yep.
They used a big update to that. But
Okay. I watched Midnight Mass on Netflix, which I freaking loved. If anyone, it's not a slasher show. It's a little smarter than that. A lot of people say that it started too slow for them, and I will say the first episode, real slow. by the time you get to the second episode, it gets moving, and by the time you get to the third episode, it just takes off. So I highly recommend it. I have a feeling that a couple of the people on there may at least be nominated for some awards for their performances, particularly the guy that plays the priest. Really, really good. I really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for something for Halloween, I highly recommend checking that out. Midnight Mass on Netflix. One last one from Ed Rock, The Truth. Do you think Nintendo will adjust the online price if there's not many subscribers or any current members upgrading? I can't justify spending $30 more a year. Yeah, I don't know if you were here for the beginning of the show. It was one of the topics today, and actually in like the middle of the show. And Matt and I are right there with you. We also agree with you that that's entirely too much. Mm-hmm. But I also do not think that Nintendo will adjust its tactic at all.
No, I do think maybe sometime next year we might see them bring some tier pricing in where like you can get, you can add just on the N64 extra classic games, retro games, and not get the whatever the DLC is. Mm-hmm. But we'll see how it goes.
I would be surprised if Nintendo adjusts because I just feel like there's going to be more than enough hardcore Nintendo fans that are going to pay it. That Nintendo's not even going to bat an eye. They may be a little disappointed, but
it kind of depends what the strategy is going forward, like what they give away. Like if it's going to be like the Breath of the Wild 2 DLC, most people are going to buy that anyway, so it might be a good investment at that point. If you're going to give away Mario Party DLC, it might not be as popular, But
that's the problem, though. They're asking you to pay before you, in some cases, know what you're paying for. Well,
that's a season pass.
I mean, we know obviously this time is Animal Crossing. I honestly thought that maybe for that amount of money, you just get all the DLC for the year for all Nintendo stuff.
That would be very un-Nintendo of them.
But it would make sense, and it would make it worth it, and I think people would then subscribe.
Yeah, but that would be very un-Nintendo of them.
Yeah.
To give you a value for your money.
A value for your money. You're right. Lowering the price of something also would be very,
that would be out of
very
character.
un-Nintendo-like. So anyway, there you go. That's GameFace episode 275. Another reminder that we are not here next Tuesday. I said it at the beginning. I'm saying it here at the end. We are not live next Tuesday. The show is happening next Wednesday. Again, I'm out of town over the long weekend. I will be back. I would be back in time for a Tuesday show. I will not be back in time to play games, so we have a good Tuesday show. So we're pushing it to Wednesday. Same time, though, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. If you're listening to this show out on the wilds of the internet, we're everywhere. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher. We're on pretty much everything. And if you are listening to it, at this very moment, look down at your phone and give us a review. And I'm telling you, give us a 5-star review. Because we deserve it, damn it. We're delivering you 3 hours of great gaming discussion every week. Those reviews make a big difference. It helps you in rankings on the podcast services. So somebody signs up through our new podcast service. They're like, what do you like? And they type in video games. The more reviews that we have, as long as they're good, the more we pop up in those lists. And it gives us a chance to find new listeners who then may or may not become patrons or support us with Twitch Prime or whatever. So it makes a big difference for us. If you've never reviewed the show, and maybe you've been listening to it for 6 years, and you still haven't reviewed the show on a podcast service, it would be great if you did that. Again, it makes a big, big difference for us. And if you've been listening to the show, and you're like, hey, I'd like to support those guys because I want the show to keep happening, head to patreon.com/sifted. That's sifted without an E. You can pledge whatever you want. $1, $100, $1 million a month. You can do it. Make it happen. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Dinfire. If you want to find Matt, he's at MKyle. That's MKEIL. And if you want to know when everything's happening with Sifted, when maybe you can't afford to pay and you just want to know when our shows go up for free on YouTube, follow us at Sifted Games, and we announce everything there. The minute it goes up on YouTube or anywhere where it's free or where it's paid, we announce it at that Twitter handle. So I think that's it. We got an 8-day break here before we come back. I'm actually headed to Las Vegas this weekend. Wish me luck. I need it because I normally have terrible luck, and I don't really gamble anyway. I'm just going to hang out with some friends who I haven't seen for a really long time. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Hope you guys have some great games to play. We'll see you next Wednesday. GameFace is up and out.